is a presentation of the iRacing Esports Network.
Located in Wisconsin, the cheese state of America, just outside the town of Elkhart Lake, Road America is a rare...
The final chapter is about to be written here on SimSpeed TV, on the iRacing Esports Network, and all around the globe. The proverbial home of V8SCOPS is the resting place we are at for this final round of the championship. Many a decisive moment has come from here at Road America. Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin plays host to where we are today. It is Jake Sperry here in the commentary booth, potentially going to be joined later on by Reese Gardner. We've got Jay Kennedy and Scott Fountain on cameras for this one. But before we get ourselves looking to Super Split 2 action, it's going to be time to see just how important this final track of the season will be with the Fact File, presented by Reese Gardner.
Located in Wisconsin, the cheese state of America, just outside the town of Elkhart Lake, Road America is a rare breed of racetrack in today's motorsport world. It's dominated by straights, linked by heavy braking zones, and turns that vary from sharp to flowing to outright dangerous. It is, for all intents and purposes, America's Monza, and to boot, the main layout of the circuit has not changed at all since the facility was opened in the 1950s. This place is truly historic and mentioned in the same breath as some of the best tracks from Europe. Well, for a track to be historic, it must of course have some history behind it, and Road America has plenty of that. Starting in 1950, sports car racing was held on a temporary street circuit in and around the village of Elkhart Lake. The races, approved by local leaders to revitalize the local economy after a canning factory closed, proved popular, spectators lining the roads. But after a series of accidents, including one at Watkins Glen where a child was killed, racing on public roads was banned in many US states, and there was a nationwide shift to racing on purpose-built permanent circuits. Road America was among the first of the permanent road courses to be constructed in the United States. A highway engineer by the name of Cliff Tufte was the one to organize the building of the new circuit. Tufte was president of the Elkhart Lake Sand and Gravel Company and owned a piece of land to the south of where the Elkhart Lake road races were held. He walked around this parcel of land and designed the basic layout of the track in his head. The circuit was intentionally designed to emulate the sweepers and sharp turns of the original public road circuit, but in a safer environment. Built to the highest standards of the time, Road America opened for business in September of 1955. Tufte was meticulous in the maintenance of this circuit. It is unconfirmed, but it is said that at the beginning, Tufte took road rolling machines over the circuit diagonally every single day to keep the tarmac in top shape. Regardless of the truth of that statement, Road America quickly gained favor among the road racing community, both in the United States and across the world. Aside from safety modifications, including runoff area extensions, the removal of the bridge that once stood over turn 13, and the installation of a chicane before the kink for motorcycles, the track has stayed steadfast for over half a century, playing host to all forms of American motorsport, from IndyCar to Champ Car to SCCA club racing to prototypes and GTs. Even NASCAR has raced here. This place is steeped in legend, and rightly so. And with straights as long as these, what better track for our 650 horsepower V8 supercars to stretch their legs?
And there we see just how important this fantastic circuit of Road America is. 14 turns, 6.44 kilometers. And for this Super Split 2 race, we will have 17 laps worth of action with one mandatory pit stop required. The weather conditions for this one, it is 32 degrees on the track, 27 in the air, partly cloudy, a blisteringly hot morning by Road America standards, with winds just gusting in from the south at about 7-8 kilometers an hour. Not really too much wind to be worried about here today. But joining into the conversation will be Brock Cadday here at SimSpeed TV. Brock, Super Split 2, we've seen it over the season. It has been the big proving ground for drivers to try and get themselves up to that top echelon and the big dance. That #1 position is so important, but just how stacked this final round of the championship is. There have been drivers who have been up there in top split all season long, but they find themselves now with an uphill battle to get themselves into the main dance.
Hey everyone, yeah, it's great to be here for Split 2 SCOPS tonight, and the competition is really awesome in Split 2 and across all of V8 SCOPS, and like you said, only the #1 position can go through to top split, but getting there is the hard part. And we've seen so many drivers been able to make that transition through. And there are a few drivers who we'd usually see in top split who have made it into second split this time around. So they're going to be fighting hard at the front of the field to try and make their way into top split and make it count for this final round and solidify their position in the championship. For people, for example, like Scott Solosky, I'm not sure if he ended up making it in, but last time I checked, he was on pole for split 2. Usually we'd see him hovering around the top 20 or 25 in top split, so tonight he's really got to solidify his spot in first there if he wants to make his championship count. Otherwise, someone else could get in and potentially take a position or two away from him.
They certainly could. Likes of Scott Zaslowski, Griffin Gardner, Mari Hrushka, we've seen all up in the top from time to time, but they now have a lot of work to do over the course of this race, and this track does offer a lot of overtaking opportunity, Brock. You've got the likes of turn number 5, which is the prime place to make a move. Canada Corner offers a great opportunity as well, and who can forget that amazing championship battle as Madison Dow went for about 6th position to try and steal the title away, and that really does prove to you that once you're alongside someone, it can take almost half a lap to resolve a move.
And that's the beauty of this circuit, is that you can go half a lap side by side and battle it out door to door to try and take those positions away. And that's why I love it. Personally, I can't drive this circuit. I'm not very good at it, but the racing is awesome here. It's got undulation, it's got different types of turns, you've got flowing turns, you've got some really tight turns that you can throw a move down into, and in these big bustling V8 supercars, it means that you're squiggling under the brakes, you're really trying to wrench the car into the turns to make it work and get those moves done, and you have to be brave at some of these turns to make them work, but that just makes the racing even more exciting for all of us here in the comms box and all of you at home watching this stream tonight.
And it's very, very important that all these drivers make sure they get a good finish to the season. We've seen how a poor finish sometimes does lead to a poor start in the brand new year. So they have to make sure that they get a good account of themselves. The final few places in the championship can be so crucial to overall finishes. But more importantly than that, Brock, they have to be worried about how they drive this car around this track, because you have to remember this is a trail braking track. You really do need to angle the car into corners to try and get as much time as you can out of a lot of 90-degree rights and lefts.
That's exactly it, and like you said, that trail braking is seriously critical to making sure you do not overshoot the corner, and there's a lot of grass and sand around this circuit, so if you go off in the grass or sand, particularly towards the start of the race, you're off in the wall or off and right at the very back of the track. So, you know, you've really got to be careful around here. Think about every move you make and every lap that you do. It drains your mentality trying to race this track and get it right lap after lap. Even just 17 laps here tonight, these drivers will be spent after that.
They are going to be spent, and for that winner, they will be even more spent because they will have to move to the final race of the season, a 250-kilometer battle for the end of the event, and that is going to be something just to keep an eye out on. That winner will have to do more work than anybody else, will put more time into the car this evening than anybody else will, and that's going to be something just to keep on in mind. But before we head ourselves over to racing action, which will happen in just under a minute's time, Brock, what are you going to be expecting out of this Super Split 2 event?
I think we could see some really good racing, but also some very brave moves that might not work. With the last round of the season comes the last, like I said earlier, that last-ditch grasp for points and the win as well. And we have a lot of people here that are capable of getting that win tonight and going up into Split 1, and it's their last time for the year. So I think expect good battles, but expect some mistakes to be made trying to get towards the front.
Well, we certainly could see that. A lot of drivers have been at the top end of this championship, have been proven to be very, very good, and a lot of drivers have been tipped for success in the future. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, that you can go over to the Flat Chat Podcast Facebook group and you can start voting for your end of year awards, your top drivers, the biggest crash, the biggest moment, and everything else under the sun. Make sure you go to the Flat Chat Podcast, which of course is brought to you by SimSpeed Entertainment for that. But the grid is up on screen, so this is how things will look. Scott Zaslowski will take pole position with James McKee in second. James Duckworth will start third with Brenton O'Brien in fourth. It's the Gene Fittis in fifth with Cameron Dance sixth. Mari Harushka seventh with Tom Freer eighth. Stephen Varga starts ninth with Gary Cooper rounding out 10.
And in 11th, we have Craig Jones. 12th is Christian Smart. 13th, Griffin Gardner. 14th, Alex Greenwood. 15th, Scott O'Keefe. 16th, Greg Bennett. 17th, Jamie Stobold. 18th, Nathan Trethgarden and Shane Rayner rounding out. Shane Rayner 19th and Joel Kenton rounding out the top 20.
Row 11 sees Damian Johnson and Damon Mulqueen, Rob Harris and Simon Black, Simon Mazzomo, Isaac Nichols and Guy Leach, the final drivers in for 27 on this grid. A good little bit of time then to get gridded up as Cameron Dance makes his way up onto the starting grid. And we should expect some fireworks then from Super Split 2 and what they are all going to be able to produce as the green flag drops then on the final Super Split 2 of the season already. O'Brien goes to the inside to try and defend Gene Fittis. Fittis is okay. Sislowski under pressure from James McKee as McKee looks to go to the outside to try and make the move into turn number 1. Always difficult, and he gets a bit of a wiggle as one goes straight on in the background. I didn't quite catch who that was, but it was a huge off, and I believe that was Smart who had the big off and straight into the fence. That looked technical in nature because that was straight on and no way of saving that. The engine's blown. There's nothing that he can do from there, but now they're all starting to push as they make their run to turn 5. Bump drafting like Talladega Nights, potentially O'Brien being pushed by Fittis. You've got Harushka trying to push Cameron Dance along here, but at the front it's Scott Zaslowski for All-Star Motorsports, who has done well. No caution will be thrown at the start here, Brock.
Yeah, what an exciting start there. Scott Zaslowski got very lucky. Bad start for him, but then all that action behind him has meant that he can sort of clear out a little bit here and focus on the race ahead. Bit of contact between Brenton O'Brien and James Duckworth as well coming into turn 2. And we're looking back at Gene Fittis now as he's trying to slice his way around there. These guys are really playing for keeps on lap 1. Be careful, we do not want any incidents this early on, guys. In the background there, just behind Marie Harushka as well, we've got some moves looking to be made. And nothing for now. Watch yourselves there, guys, through the parabolica. They're all playing for keeps here. Craig Jones is trying to go up the inside there as well. This is insane already, Jake.
Yeah, the Craig Moretta racing car of Craig Jones trying to get past Stephen Varga, but Varga was having none of it as Griffin Gardner tries to think about extending positions, trying to get past Mari Harushka as quickly as possible. Already, Zaslowski pulling out pretty much an 0.8 of a second advantage at the front of the field over James Duckworth in second position at the moment, but down the inside goes Craig Jones trying to sort the position. Out as around goes Griffin Gardner just in front of them at Canada corner, too eager to get the power on, and as such in the kitty litter and trying to find a way to get back on circuit.
And Griffin Gardner was one of those drivers you said earlier could be up there, so unfortunately that may have just ruined his day unless we have a safety car later. It can fight through, and somebody's come into the pits as well by the looks of it, but not quite sure who there is. We're just going to watch Craig Jones here on Marie Harushka making some very early moves here as they come side by side down the front straight. Craig Jones, that CMR team car, side by side. Harushka makes a little mistake there on entry. They're still going to go side by side on the exit here. Jones left with the ideal line coming into turn 2, but Harushka has fought him off quite nicely there. Won't be able to make it work. No, he's going to have to cut in behind her there, and the 868 car behind nearly gets pushed out wide by Jones. Someone's off in the background there, nearly into the concrete wall. Not sure who that is, though.
That's Gary Cooper, who has damage to the rear of the vehicle as well, so has clearly been involved in a bit of contact and was done so there. That was with Scott O'Keefe. Contact once, contact twice, and straight into the wall. Gene Fittis in trouble as Stephen Varga's been involved in an incident and is continuing to be involved in a big accident as into the fence will go one vehicle. I believe that's Tom Freer on the inside of turn number 5 and almost reversing out into traffic as well, and just about trying to get himself back going again. Replays are going to be needed and they will be up on screen right now, Brock.
So we had Gary Cooper, I believe. He just ran off in the background there. I'm not exactly sure what happened there, but he had major damage to his car when he went into the concrete wall and then has escaped off track now.
Yeah, he has escaped off track, so that's going to mean that he will keep going, but we've seen also what happened to Stephen Varga. He just got himself some contact there at turn number 5 and then It just was a chain reaction from there, and it happens so quickly around this circuit. We have to note technical issues for Gene Fiddis has cost him a lot of positions, so it now means that Cieslawski leads, Duckworth second, McKee in third, O'Brien fourth, Dance in fifth, Hruska sixth, and Jones in seventh, your top 7 as things look. But we have ourselves back live at the moment. Look at the train that is forming here behind Scott O'Keefe here, because O'Keefe's got Varga, Stovall, Kenton, Greenwood, Johnson, and Rayner all on that train. So a long train, and this is what happens here at Road America, Brock. It gets very difficult to get things correct. And once you get a big train, one small mistake becomes 3, 4, 5, even 8 huge accidents out on track.
That's exactly it, and just look at this train, as you were saying before, from Scott. Oh, there's a mistake made in the background there. That was a drift there by Joel Kenton through turn 1, and he's forced another car off the track there. Wow, they've had to go around either side of him to make sure that there was no incident there. Kenton did beautifully to save that car, but now under major attack there as Shane Rayner throws it down the inside and makes that move work. Just as we were saying, mistakes are easy to make, and they've just shown us that right there. Wow, so this is already heating up here, and now Kenton and Rayner will go side by side down into turn 3 here. We're watching the braking zone, very heavy braking zone here, easy to outbrake yourself. Kenton's managed to get it stopped here. Rayner nearly gives him a little bump from behind, luckily he didn't. Can spin people on the exit there. We know how touchy these cars are on exit. Looks like it's settled down for now, but now Rayner under attack from his teammate there as well. So this is all going off at the moment.
Oh, you certainly bet it is, as now Scott O'Keefe thought about trying to defend from Stephen Varga, and the Redback racing car was always going to be very difficult. Going to bring Reese Gardner into the conversation now. Reese, it has been an action-packed start. We haven't seen a caution as of yet, despite 3 or 4 little incidents that we've seen. Cieslawski currently holds the lead at just about a second at the moment to James Duckworth, who's been keeping things honest. The battle for 5th position, though, Mario Hruska has not been able to pull away from Craig Jones, and Jones is really looking strong here today.
Yeah, he is. He's already made mega moves through the pack at the moment, and he's looking like he's just going to keep on going. He hasn't managed to make his way past Hruska yet, but he is all over the back of her there, and looks like at any slight mistake that Hruska makes, and yet here we go. Not quite. The last turn's a bit of a complicated spot to make a move. You really need to be alongside already, but now nice long straight here. He'll be able to get that nice air pocket to draft right up to the back of her and see if he can make the move work through turn 1 here. Watch them as they go down the main straight. Jones getting noticeably closer, moving out to the right-hand side, trying to get that overlap going to turn 1. This is where he tried before. Hruska held it around the outside. Jones already ahead before they make the apex, and that's that position gave him up in the 6th spot. That was well done, and now he's 5 positions up on his starting spot.
That's pretty good there for Craig Jones. And next up will be a charge 2 seconds down the road to Cameron Dance, who has a tendency to gain positions in the Super Split 2 races, has been a permanent fixture so far this season. The overall pace is the only thing that has been lacking in terms of 1 lap pace for Cameron Dance. Certainly one of the best racers. Look at Scott O'Keefe and Stephen Varga, though. Varga all over Scott O'Keefe as they go onto the braking zone at 5 and just can't try and get that one working. Greenwood trying to make his way through as well on Jamie Stovall. Reese, I believe we have you now.
Yes, certainly you do. My apologies for my lateness. Joel Kenton, I'm noticing in the background there, still having issues keeping that car under control. A little bit of a slide out of that slow turn, and he is under quite a bit of pressure from Shane Rayner and the train behind him at the moment. But I'm seeing Stephen Varga there. Oh, just making his way past Scott O'Keefe with a little bit of biffo involved. Now Scott O'Keefe is having to defend against Jamie Stovall. So Varga muscling his way past there.
Yeah, and that was some good moves. We thank, of course, Brock Calais for joining us then, presently, as Varga has a big moment there, almost collecting the inside wall, but he saves it without going off the circuit. And now, all of a sudden, look at how this starts the battle. O'Keefe cuts the line off from Stovall, who has to lift out of it. Now Greenwood's going to start thinking, okay, maybe there's a position for me to go and make a move. Answers no. They're all nice and calm when they hit the brake, so no changes of position into Canada corner, but it can happen so swiftly around this track. You've got to make sure that you're right on it. Also keep an eye on this. Battle for second. Duckworth has been caught by Mickey.
Yeah, certainly has. Oh my goodness, that is not the line that you want to take there, getting on the grass over the crest of the hill. How Road America is that? And that has completely ruined the run of James McKee there. Could have been a move into turn one, but he's going to have to wait about half a lap more to give that a proper go.
Well, he's going to have to wait a little longer, almost doing what I believe it was Jake Sturgis did a couple of years ago in the iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series in some respect. They still have to make their pit stop, remember. It's lap 5 of 17, so they've still got a lot of time before they start thinking about it, but actually look a little bit further down. Some drivers have made some good positions, like Guy Leach, for example, who's up 10 positions in this event and looking towards Greg Bennett and the big train now that forms behind Joel Kenton, which also has Simon Mazoman. Is you spot something?
Yeah, sorry, James Duckworth just had a major moment coming into the braking zone, almost giving that position to McKee. So I'm noticing there's a few drivers in this field that are having some distinct problems with the rear ends of their cars right now.
Well, it is surprisingly hot for a morning condition, so I wouldn't be surprised to see a few drivers thrown off at this time, as we see Simon Mazzomo and also Greg Bennett have been turned out on circuit. That was at turn 5, and it was a big moment as we get it on replay. There's nothing Mazzomo could have done there, because that was just the case of Greg Bennett missing his braking point, having a huge accident, and the FD1 car ends up in the gravel and gets back going again. So a big incident has cost both of them a couple of positions. That's not going to be what the doctor certainly ordered, but that middle of the pack, my goodness, that is turning out to be the big battle zone here today, Reese.
Yeah, it certainly is. And just noticing Scott O'Keefe, a technical issue, he has retired from this race as a result. Big shame for Scott. Notice he was running strong in that mid-pack, but that mid-pack is definitely where it is right now. I'm looking at 8th backwards. So Stephen Varga now is... he's got a little bit of breathing room to Stovall and Greenwood, but they are battling quite hard as well. Joel Kenton's still trying to eke as much pace out of that car as possible, as he is going to be monitoring that pack behind him. Awful lot of slipstreaming moves going on at Road America, but ultimately it's the performance through the corners that I think is going to make a bit of the difference here.
It's making all the difference at the moment, and that's been seen with Scott Kozlowski's 3-second advantage at the front of the field in the Joel Kenton train, which is behind the Stephen Varga train, which holds Stovall and Greenwood. You've got Shane Rayner, Damian Johnson, Nathan Tregarthen. Indeed.
What a save. He was like millimeters away from the tyre wall there, Sperry. That is definitely one of the saves of the Super Split 2 season, in my opinion.
Oh, it was, and Nathan Tregarthen can call Code Brown as much as he likes, because he has pretty much used one of his 9 lives as a cat, shall we say, with that sort of incident. As that was a big wiggle on the brakes, and Shane Rayner just goes a little bit deep, and that's going to allow his teammate maybe half a chance, Damian Johnstone, to try and make the move, and goes up the inside, but has his own little slide, and there goes his chance of making a move. So all these drivers locking up the rears and struggling to get this one done. It seems that rear axle is a big point of contention so far in this event here today.
Yeah, certainly is. Well, I mean, Road America, I do call it America's Monza in the fact file, but it's not a one-to-one comparison, of course. Monza much smoother than Road America. Road America still has those very long, very heavy braking zones. In a car like this, remember, these things have a differential, but it's locked. The old generation cars had a live rear axle, so they never used to have a differential, as that's a car in the wall out of the kink. That is Johnstone. And just showing that this car very propensious to understeer thanks to that locked diff, but also it doesn't really do the rear brakes any favors either.
No, it doesn't. He was all over the curb on entry into the corner, never had himself lined up for the kink, and as such, Johnstone is now trying to pedal furiously to get back to the start-finish line, because the good thing is, it's lap 6 of 17, effectively, he can come in now, make his stop, and he should be good to the end.
Yeah, certainly should. That's one thing that you got to take into account. This pit stop can make all the difference. Speaking of pit stops, we've got Stephen Varga in the pits right now. He'll want to jump in there, probably get a bit of that damage repaired, as well as Alex Greenwood almost making a move here.
Yeah, and Alex Greenwood's going to try and make sure that this one works, as he's got Jamie Stovall, he was trying to get by at turn number 1, was close, but ultimately decided to back out of it because turn 5 is the better opportunity here with the multiple different kinks that are known as corners around this circuit. But Stovall now being left to pedal the pace, as it were, but on the brakes into 5, not close enough at the moment. Alex Greenwood playing that patient game, and I don't blame him around this track. A lot of mistakes seen already, don't want to make any more.
No, certainly not, and it is a long lap length around here. This race, well, you see 17 laps, seems like a very short number, but you got to remember a lap around here is 2 minutes and 11 seconds. That's longer time-wise than a lap around the Mount Panorama circuit, so it does take a lot of time to wheel a car around this place, so any kind of mistake you make is going to be multiplied tenfold, especially down those straights.
And I'm seeing at almost every corner now Brenton O'Brien locking up his Evolution Racing Team brakes because he's got Cameron Dance of TTL Esports just behind and just being a nuisance at the moment, just staying there and applying pressure on the number 26 as the 26 and 27 continue their battle. Dance certainly not close enough at the moment to go and actively make a move, but he is keeping Brenton O'Brien honest, and I think O'Brien's supercar is a lot more suited to top speed than Cameron Dance's, which is a lot better when it comes to the corners.
Yeah, it certainly is. You noticed in those last couple of corners, Dance was riding the curbs a lot nicer than O'Brien was. In fact, O'Brien was barely touching the curbs at all. Dance has got a very nice run here out of the final turn as they come up over the crest onto the start-finish straight. I love this braking zone into turn 1. It's just on the verge of an overtaking spot, but it's still a very fast corner, and you can see Dance really bringing it up to the back of O'Brien as James McKee up the inside of Mr. Duckworth. That is the move done there. Very nicely done, actually.
Yeah, that was done at the exit of turn number 1, actually, because Duckworth ran a little bit wide, and, well, it seemed that he was trying to get the power down, but it seems that he was getting all of his ducks worth flapping about, almost like a swan calm on the surface, but really struggling when it came to the rest of the corner. So for that, McKee makes his way up into second and now can push. Look at Cameron Dance, though, as Alex Greenwood, we note, has come down in and made a pit stop. Cameron Dance is right there looking for the moves, tucked up underneath, going to pull to the inside, trying to make it happen at turn number 5. Gets it slotted down the inside. Can he stop it, though? Answer is just about. Bit of contact there from Brenton O'Brien on the outside, and they'll keep it too wide as they head their way to 6 under the Corvette bridge and up the hill, and just got himself through. Let's get a replay of that because Cameron Dance has secured the position, and that was just the faintest hint of contact, Reese.
Yes, indeed. Actually, I think you were viewing a replay on your end, Sperry, because we're about 20 seconds ahead of you there, unfortunately. So Cameron Dance definitely made his way there past Brenton O'Brien. He's maintaining the position very nicely. The issue that Brenton now has, though, is looming up behind him. Have a look at that grey and yellow CMR team machine. That is Craig Jones on a pretty hefty charge, I have to say. Where has his pace come from in those last couple of laps?
Well, it's always been there. We saw the pace to get past Mari Harushka, and let's not forget, Harushka's not gone too far away. He's only 2 seconds back here, and Craig Jones has been systematically trying to work it. In fact, he'll dive down onto pit road right now, and that's a very clever decision from him because he knows that he's got the pace over these 2 drivers. Now all he's got to do is unlock it on hot lap 4.
Yeah, this is the issue that you have with these pit stops. You're coming up behind 2 cars that you know you're quicker than. Do you pass them on track, or do you take a pit stop now and get that clear air, get that pace, pass them when they make their pit stops? Obviously, the second option is what you go for almost every time. Craig Jones has done just that.
He has done that, and he's hit his box flawlessly as he will look to come out. The question will be, will he come out in trouble? Joel Kenton's come in, as has Damon Mulqueen. I believe Guy Leach as well has dived down onto pit road. So a lot of drivers come in. Off of the jacks goes Guy Leach, but already gone away is Craig Jones, and crucially, a lot of time to Simon Mazzomo. So there is a lot of space that Craig Jones can work with here in this event to pull himself back into tow for this one. But for all of the bring yourself back into the race, it is Scott Zieslowski who has been pulling away right from the drop of the green flag. 4.3 seconds the gap. And if this is anything that Jared Filsell will be looking at, he'll be knowing that he has the opportunity to break away at this track as Greg Bennett gets a 30-second stop and hold penalty for his incident earlier on.
Indeed he does, and Zieslowski, I just noticed, very big moment coming out of the carousel, got on the grass and a little bit out of control. That's the kind of stuff that he will definitely want to minimize in his position there up the front. He's got a lovely lead there, no point in squandering it through making unnecessary errors. Speaking of the podium, though, McKee and Duckworth, well, Duckworth, having been passed by McKee, has not exactly let him go yet. He's still keeping him honest.
And that's very crucial as well, because keeping honest has been the good thing for Duckworth. He's not been slow by any respect. He's just been keeping himself in play just in case something happens. On cue, Duckworth decides to dive down onto pit road on lap 9 of 17, up the hill, looking for the line as well, and looking to try and make sure that this stop is flawless by his standards at the moment. Just keeping a time eye on Mari Rushko, did a 2:10.8 that last time by, compared to O'Brien, and Cameron Dance took 0.3 of a second off, pulls that gap down to O'Brien to 2.1.
So we might see that three-car battle eventuate pretty soon, depending on when these drivers take their stops. Dance has not left O'Brien in the dust exactly, has he?
Well, no, that's very, very true. So Cameron Dance has been unable to pull away as Duckworth currently gets his stop done. Look at where Craig Jones is going to come out in comparison to this, because off and away goes James Duckworth, but look how close Craig Jones was as he pulls himself close. Remember, there was only 8 seconds of a gap between them. That gap, I would say, has been halved in the pit stop window. It's down to 2.6 seconds, so in fact, it's been slashed by 75%. Such has been a good stop from Craig Jones.
Yeah, certainly. Combined with his pace, that is a fantastic gap to strike down. I mean, Duckworth, it's hard to say whether or not Jones is going to have the time left in this race to try and pass him, but Jones certainly on for a good result at this stage, and Duckworth just making a little mistake out of the pits, and a caution flag is out.
And that should be for Isaac Nichols, who has had himself a pretty big moment by his standards at Canada Corner, and this changes everything, because for those who haven't stopped, they've got to do it under caution. That means Zieslowski, McKee, Dance, O'Brien and Hrushka will all be shuffled to the back of the line. James Duckworth has the lead, and we were talking about, does Craig Jones have the time? Oh my goodness, he does now.
Yeah, certainly does. This is a real boon for the people who have already pitted. We got a replay on screen of Isaac Nichols' crash. Just unfortunate, losing it under brakes, and once that car got into the wall, goodness me, there was very little that he could do to get out of it.
Well, there was nothing he could do to get out of it, and Isaac Nichols now, stranded at Canada, has thrown the first caution of the afternoon, and hopefully the last one to boot as well. So this changes everything then in terms of this strategy, because this is the Jared Filsell at Motorsport situation. Drivers who know they have a stop to make, yes, it's technically a free stop when it comes under caution, but they will be cycled to the back of the line, and with most drivers having made their stops early in this event, all those drivers who decide to stay out, banked on no caution coming out, they've been caught out by this now, and that's disaster.
Yeah, it certainly is. You know, a few of the guys, all the guys up the front, I definitely have to say, it's a big disadvantage for them now. What you got to think about is people like Craig Jones who have just made their stops, who still have all of that pace left in their tires. The likes of Simon Mazzomo as well. You'll see them moving up very, very soon. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the order is going to be at the end of this caution period, because pit road will be opening very, very soon. And these drivers will have to jump in and take that pit stop, lose the least amount of time.
I make it Duckworth leads with Jones second, Jamie Stovall in third with Alex Greenwood fourth, and then it will be Guy Leach, who started this race, let's not forget, in 27th position, which was the last starting position on this grid, now up inside the top 5. Guy Leach is having a stormer.
incredible. Incredible stuff. And Guy Leach, I've noticed drives like that from him in the past. Luck doesn't always go his way, but definitely when it does go his way, it comes in spades and buckets.
Well, it's more than buckets and spades at the moment.
It's shipping containers.
It is shipping containers. You're absolutely right. And they are straight to Elkhart Lake, where they have been dispatched to him at this stage. As now we get a little bit of calm in this event. This is where drivers will be trying to save as much fuel as possible. And I think one of the good things that these drivers who haven't come down and make those stops yet can do is they can just save as much fuel as possible at this stage here, Reese, and they can make their stops that little bit quicker.
Yeah, it'll only be a couple of litres saved all up under the safety car here, but that is going to make a bit of difference in the pits. I'd say, you know, even like an extra half a second that you save is absolutely crucial. In a caution period like this, where all the cars are traveling slowly, it can be the difference between a couple of positions.
It can be all the difference right now. The good news that they have is that they aren't really in trouble. We've also seen Griffin Gardner exit this race. He is...
Hi there, I'm Richard Joe.
himself back into this event. So, well, yeah, we're going to get the puns out.
That was be horrendous, Sperry. I'm very disappointed.
Well, you may be disappointed, but I'm certainly not wrong with my strategy calls, because the top five have all peeled off into pit road, and I am not surprised by that fact. So we'll see if there's going to be any jumps when it comes onto the lane. 2 ASM cars, 1 TTL Esports car, 1 Evolution Racing Team car, and of course James Mickey as well, coming onto the lane too in his camouflage Holden, which is not really doing him much favours. So it now gives James Duckworth the lead, but Craig Jones has proven that he has the pace. John Stone gets a lucky dog around. He is now 3 minutes and 47 seconds behind the race leaders.
Yes, indeed. Well, drivers currently in the pits, all of them up on the jacks right now. Who is going to get the best run here? Look, Dance is already away. Sislowski,
slow.
Really slow. Wow. Goodness me, he's dropped all the way to the end of that.
Well, he's took a lot more fuel, I think, than everyone else, and I think he's looking to try and just make sure that he's safe. Dance, O'Brien, and McKee then filter to the back of the line, which will put them around 14th position, so they still have time to pull this one back through the field. How much, though, is going to be a difficult one, because in terms of the pace car, the iRacing Roof First safety car, the lights are off, which means we will go green this time by, and that will only leave 5 laps to try and make as many positions as possible. And it doesn't matter how long you've got, 5 laps around Road America is not much, even with the overtaking opportunity.
Certainly not. Noticing Brenton O'Brien having gotten that jump on Cameron Dance in the pits, he is riding that clutch pedal like his favorite toy horse. Brenton obviously going for the maximum fuel saving game here.
Nay, laddie, and he's, look, you can see actually how much he's saving. He's not pulling up to the back of James McKee. He's trying to just run as much as he can on that clutch to save as much fuel as possible, and that's their Evolution Racing Team game. If he can save as much fuel as he can, then he's in the prime position to keep himself pretty much on his fuel strategy, and I think that's what everything was looking at in that one. O'Brien and Dance, and Mickey as well, all took a little bit less fuel on that stop, and that's going to be something to keep an eye out on with the final 5 laps to go.
Indeed it will. Definitely something you will have to look out for, but what I am definitely interested in is seeing how that battle for the lead pans out, because, as you said, Sperry, we know what Craig Jones is capable of here. I would definitely expect him to be right on the back of James Duckworth once we go green. Well,
that's something just to keep an eye on as they head their way to the kink. Your top 5 as things stand is Duckworth, Jones, Stovall, Greenwood, and Guy Leach. As far as things look, your top 5, currently, only 1 driver started this event inside the top 10, and Guy Leach started from the very back at 27th position and this race is not over by any stretch of the imagination. This is going to be a lightning 5 laps here at Road America, and now hold on to your seat, because that transfer spot is going to be something very, very difficult to get right. Just noticing, actually, that there's a few issues for James Duckworth, who's coming in and out, and that's not going to be helpful at all for James Duckworth. That's another little added pressure with his technical issues that he's got to be very mindful of here in the final stages of this event, but certainly not giving enough gap potentially to this iRacing roof first safety car, which should go down there. Note, do not overtake before the start-finish line. That's what all of these drivers will be instructed to do as pace car dives down onto the lane. And is it an early jump? It's a very early jump, actually, by James Duckworth, as he gets the green flag and gets himself back going again here at Road America with 5 laps to go, with Craig Jones second, Stovall third, Greenwood fourth, Guy Leach currently in 5th, with 6th position being held by Nathan Tregarthen, who has very nearly found the wall on certain occasions. And he moves then into the open corner. There's even Mulqueen trying to make the move on Joel Kenton. He can't. Oh! Someone's off. And
that's Brenton O'Brien. Wow!
Absolutely right, Rick.
Goodness me, that's crazy. Oh, and that was contact. Oh, it's on for the lead, though, but it was contact with James McKee. Side-by-side contact with Brenton O'Brien there. Sent both cars off at turn 1, but the lead is on.
Yeah, here's Craig Jones going around the outside, trying to make it happen. Oh, they touched. Oh. They touched. They came together, and they just about held it. Duckworth being ruthless. Here comes Stovall trying to go down the inside. And Stovall now is going to hurt the Craig Moretta racing car, as now you can see right-hander, little bit of a bump between them. Big bump behind them.
Greenwood.
Alex Greenwood finds himself in the tyres, and just like that, Greenwood's shot of a victory is shattered.
Goodness me, that's a real shame for McKee. He's had to wait for the entire field, essentially, to go by. But that battle for the lead certainly not over yet, because Craig Jones will have fire in his belly now. Duckworth, trying to defend on the inside, just lost it under the brakes and unfortunately overshot the apex, got right into him. So Craig Jones, he has to do all this work again. Got to be careful, though, Craig. You're getting on the grass a bit too much. Don't want to induce too much oversteer, but Duckworth, I think with that mistake, he's ensured he's gotten a bit of a lifeline.
Yeah, he's got a gap now, and that's a crucial gap over a second for Craig Jones, and he'll be very mindful of that at the moment, and that's something just to keep on, as now Cieslawski's got his way past Stephen Varga. Next up on his hit list is Rob Harris, and Cieslawski has proven just how good he has been over the course of this event, trying to pull his way forward. Look at Guy Leach as well, though. Battle for 3rd position out on track. Stovall is in a little bit of trouble here, because Guy Leach is leeching onto the rear of Stovall's 987, and the number 46 moves to the inside, trying to make the move, can't do it. Into turn number 1, he'll think better and he'll look to 5.
Yeah, straight line speed, not Guy Leach's friend right now. He has got a bit of a dent encompassing the entire front end of that Holden Commodore, so obviously not reaching as high of a velocity as he'd like. See what he does down this straight, though, because he's definitely within the draft range. Might he go for a dive at turn 5? Yeah, he's going to have a look, isn't he? Right to the inside is Guy Leach, but he gets on the brakes a little bit early, just having a bit of a look, trying to psych out Stovall.
Goodness me, Nathan Tregarthen was all over it on the brakes and had to be so careful. Mulqueen runs wide in the background. This will allow Cieslawski a chance to get back into 8th position here. Up on the brakes into the left-hander, and Mulqueen pretty much left in the dust. All this conflict between them, but they hold it together. That could have ended in a Cieslawski spin so easily. He tried to chop the nose, but just like that, they continue racing. Craig Jones still trying to hammer away the gap to James Duckworth at the front of the field. Stovall being a pretty much staunch defender here for 3rd position. It's Nathan Tregarthen now on the rear. I'm still going to say this right now. A podium's not out of reach, so I'd see Cam Dance get a bit of the grass, as he's already made his way past Stephen Varga, which now Mari Rushka wants to do in the 2nd ASM Ratcourt car.
Yeah, we'll see those fresh tyres for the drivers that pitted under caution. They are certainly helping, but that's not going to help anyone. Marie Hrushka just grazing the wall out of the kink. That could have been so much worse.
That could have been catastrophic for Harushka in the 690, but she keeps it going, and that's very telling. Dance trying to get past Rob Harris. Harris having none of it then at that point on the track. Still, Stovall defends Guy Leach, Nathan Tregarthen, and now Shane Rayner getting on the rear as well. The 331 who started in 19th position and is currently up into 6th. Look at Cisłowski, though, right up behind Joel Kenton. This should be elementary, my dear Watson, and the answer is it will be, but Kenton goes to the inside. Cisłowski's got to go the long way round if he wants to make it, as Mulqueen has dropped a multitude of positions, and that's 7th position now for Cisłowski. I think a podium's certainly on here. We've got 3 laps to go.
Cisłowski with tunnel vision majorly right now. He is completely eyes forward, not looking in his mirrors even once. Meanwhile, Cameron Dance has made his way past Rob Harris. Harris is running wide out of the last corner. Mulqueen under big pressure from Mazomo and Hrushka. Goodness me, have a look at Hrushka. Obviously, Mazomo not getting the exit that he needs, and Hrushka right in the draft here. This could certainly be a move.
It could be a move, and Harushka will look to the inside as just further in front. Here comes Stephen Varga trying to get by Rob Harris, and they'll have to stay too wide here as they battle. Harushka gets the move that she wants done, but still Varga fights it with Rob Harris. Harris stuck on the outside, and Varga's Redback racing car comfortably makes her way through and will get the next corner heading to the hurry down section. So certainly doing very, very good in terms of this one, but still, look at Craig Jones. He's pulling in that gap. He's ringing it in 10th by 10th, and Craig Moretta Racing's team still has a chance of making top split here. It's him or Duckworth that's going to make it, and the 369 is now holding on for dear life.
Yeah, certainly is. Jones has just been chipping away with a chisel and hammer at that gap between himself and Duckworth. Obviously wanting to make good on the incident that happened to them just after the caution. So have a look at the amount that Jones gathers up in the brakes. That is insane to see. This could definitely be on the next couple of laps. Jones taking all of the curb and then some in the second last turn. Awesome work by both drivers here. But Craig Jones doing the better job right now. You can see he's starting to creep up.
He certainly is creeping up. That gap was 1 second the last time they crossed the line. Now that gap comes down, and it is just 0.3 of a second as Craig Jones now starts thinking about applying for an overtake, and he won't do it into turn number 1. Behind all of this, though, Scott Cisłowski has made a move and has got himself through, as Guy Leach is going to have to be in the pits. He can't make it to the end with the damage that he's got, so Cisłowski now moves up into the top 5. Look at Jones, though. This is going to be the chance with 2 laps to go that he wants to make the move that puts him into split 1 and the final race of the season. Can Craig Jones find the magic move? Answer is he's going to have to do it on the final lap here, Reese, because he won't get it down into 5.
Well, I've said it at many rounds earlier on this year, the final lap is the best time to be making those moves, because you do it too early, you just leave yourself open to more things going wrong. Craig Jones, his best chances now are either at turn 5 on the next lap or Canada corner on this one.
Well, you can see just how hard that he's been pushing right now, and the answer is a lot, as now you start thinking about every which corner and how this is going to work for Duckworth. It's about holding for survival here through the carousel, and Reese, you have to feel that it's got to be one of those two, as now Cisłowski comes down the inside of Nathan Tregarthen, who's stuck on the outside of the carousel in the marbles, and Cisłowski goes, "Thank you, that's mine."
Yes, indeed he does. So I don't think Tregarthen is going to have much of an answer to that. Cisłowski with great pace. Have a look at Jones, though, on Duckworth. Big slipstream down the back stretch. Duckworth going defensive, coming into Canada corner. Jones forced to wait.
My word, that was close. It was a huge defense from James Duckworth. He's putting everything on the table for this victory. It's Duckworth versus Jones now for the final race win of Super Split 2. They will climb the hill for the penultimate time to start the final lap here at Road America, and for the moment the 111 of Craig Jones can only see position 1 in front of him. Look at the run that he's able to accrue. Moves to the inside to try and make it happen. No defense from Duckworth. He's got to do it on the outside. He's later on the brakes and shuts the door heading into turn number 1. Not much you can do. Small kink of 2 coming up, and Jones wants to line it up, but you can see Duckworth on the inside defending his way into turn number 3, and now Jones has got to wonder, where can I get it? Small mistake means that Duckworth has the ability to pull away, but the draft will only bring Jones back. Do you go Banzai here, or do you wait to Canada Corner, which seems to be the place, the last chance that you really have a place of making a move for Jones? He thinks about it. He goes late on the brakes trying to make it happen, and they have a panic, and Jones tries to stop it up. Duckworth just about gets himself a 6/10 gap now, and all of a sudden, Scott Kozlowski is fighting for 3rd position with Jamie Stovall here. Jones now running out of tyre traction, it seems, to keep himself back in this one, and Duckworth, without mistakes, has maybe just scampered off home, and that was a little bit of panic from the pair of them, which has ended out in this situation. Don't count your chickens just yet. Kozlowski, who had to come in during the stop or during the caution to make his stop, he's done magnificently to fight back, trying to get a podium, but Jones is running out of time. That time is all in Duckworth's hands, and without a mistake now in the final 4 corners, James Duckworth is home, and he is very much dry through the kink. No worries at all behind Kozlowski. Still not close enough to get to Jamie Stovall, but is now reeling in that draft, and that draft is being so helpful. No mistakes for Duckworth then, heading through that 3rd to last corner, as there goes Kozlowski down the inside. He hopes to try and make the move. Can he get past Stovall? He'll be on the outside at Bill Mitchell Bend. That's not going to be the place he wants to be at, but it's the place he's going to be stuck. Final corner then for James Duckworth, and he has got himself through. Kozlowski thinks of the move, but it's covered heavily by Stovall. Stovall at the moment will hold on. James Duckworth holds off Craig Jones for a great victory here, and he played the pit stop to perfection to take victory. 2nd place will go to Craig Jones, and Jamie Stovall will hold off Scott Kozlowski for 3rd. What an event! As a drag race, Mazomo will be beaten out over the line by Rob Harris.
Wow, excellent finish there, and drag racing still going on there. Rob Harris speeding out Mazomo in the end as more drivers come around to finish their last lap. Got a feel for Craig Jones, though. He would have had a very good chance there if he hadn't lost it under brakes into 5.
Oh, he lost it under the brakes. I think he was panicked, actually, by the way Duckworth was angling to the inside. I think the pair of them will look at each other and go, my shot at victory was taken because of you. Oh, no, that was your fault. I think they'll be pointing stones at each other and spears and all the rest of it. But classified results, then let's get them up on your screen. James Duckworth will go to the main event, the final round of the season, with a victory by 7/10 of a second over Craig Jones, with Jamie Stovall holding off Scott Kozlowski for 3rd. Nathan Tregarthen gets 5th position with Shane Rayner in 6th. Joel Kenton, 20th up to 7th. He is one of the big movers in the field, with Cameron Dance in 8th. Stephen Varga gets 9th. Marushka rounds out the top 10.
In 11th, Greg Bennett. Good finish, especially considering his 32nd penalty. Rob Harris in 12th. Simon Mazomo in 13th. Alex Greenwood coming home in 14th. Real shame for him. He had a good shot at a podium. Damon Mulqueen rounding out the top 15. Guy Leach, he was on for an awesome result as well. He's going to have to settle for 16th in the end. Brenton O'Brien from 4th all the way down to 17th. A race to forget for him in the final stages. Damon Johnstone in 18th. James McKee, my goodness, another heartbreak story from 19th. And Griffin Gardner rounding out the top 20, 8 laps down.
And these are all drivers who failed to finish. Isaac Nichols, who caused the caution. Tom Freer, Scott O'Keefe, Gary Cooper, Christian Smart, and Gene Fiddis, the drivers who did not get themselves over to the end of this event. But it's James Duckworth who moves himself to the V8SCOPS race proper. But we're going to step aside for one moment here on the iRacing Esports Network here on SimSpeed TV, because we'll get fallout from split number 2 as we look to qualifying of race number 1, the last race of the season, and the championship battle that will happen. Phil Sell, Phil Sell, Down, and of course, Ethan Grigg Gold. It's a three-way championship, and if you're lucky, Jake Burton, there may be a chance for you.
front bumper, and he hits him again now. Rayon Fowler into the outside wall.
He's going to pass nearly 3 cars down that front straightaway, and he's going to get them all done with. What amazing.
Lee to the inside goes Logan Clapton is going to touch in. Pit press sideways. What a save.
Looks to the outside as Cronkite goes off. De Jong into second place.
Going for the switchback. Oh, pinpoint driving.
It's howling down to the inside.
Trying this contact though.
Slide left to the racetrack. Chris Renner drives it back down underneath, and he takes that second spot right back. Joker goes to Garrett Lowe.
Garrett Lowe should take victory with all that contact.
He's going to try and make the move around the outside the parabolica. That's not going to work, but he's going to try and get the cut back here. Get the run out the parabolica. That's beautifully done there. Michael Schumacher, there's a little bit of door banging as well.
The following is a presentation of the iRacing Esports Network.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Virtual Racing School V8 Supercars Online Premier Series finale here at the wonderful Road America circuit. This is going to be one of those races that you want to keep an eye out on for the foreseeable future, because there is a lot that can happen and can change if you aren't watching this one properly here on the iRacing Esports Network, presented by SimSpeed TV. I'm Jake Sperry, joined by Reese Gardner. And Reese, we saw from Super Split 2 just how difficult the racing can be and just how important it is to get yourself into a victory, because Mr. Duckworth managed to find himself that win, but he's not a stranger to victories. The 2017 Aussie Racing Cars champion.
Yeah, certainly is. Of course, for those who are unaware of Aussie Racing Cars, it's basically like Legends cars, but we use different bodywork, and I think there's a couple of differences mechanically, but it's a very popular series here in Australia, always turns up the entertainment, and Mr. Duckworth, of course, was the champion last year. So awesome to see him jumping into iRacing and getting into the V8SCOPS hype train as well. It'll be cool to see how he goes in Split 1 against the big boys of this championship, because Duckworth might not be a stranger to racing, but against a field like this, definitely will be interesting to see how he does.
It will be indeed. And of course, this is a very important track. Let's just get conditions then for you. It has gone overcast. It's actually colder than in the Split 2 race. It is 27 degrees in the air and 27 degrees on the track. Winds are gusting up at around 6-7 kilometers an hour from the southwest. So the wind is definitely swirling around here at a cool Elkhart Lake. But we got more than just that we have to deal with here today, Reese, because of course we do have the end of season awards that are brought to by, of course, Oceanic Sim Racing and V8SCOPS themselves. So they've got to be dedicated, shall we say, and awarded in about the next 12 minutes or so.
Yeah, definitely something like that. After the broadcast, I believe, is what we are going to go with for that. So a couple more things for the drivers of this season to work towards. We do have some event categories. We've got Outstanding Driver of the Series, so just in our opinion, in Oceanic Sim Racing's opinion as well, the driver who's had, you know, the most outstanding performances. You got the Encouragement Award for drivers who qualified for a V8SCOPS race for the first time in this season. You got the Media Award for the team or independent driver who does the best job of promoting themselves, their team, their car, their races, or V8SCOPS over 2018. And then you got the Safe Driver Award, so the driver who has the least number of incidents per race.
That's all very telling. And of course, those aren't the only awards that are going on. Of course, with SimSpeed Entertainment, we've got the Flat Chat Podcast Awards as well, Reese, that are going to be deliberated on.
Yes, we certainly do. And if you want to go on to SoundCloud or the Flat Chat Podcast Facebook page and have a listen to the podcast, myself and Sperry joined the Flat Chat boys to have a chat about recent happenings and, of course, this round of V8SCOPS. And we gave our opinions on, our personal picks for the Flat Chat Awards. So be sure to give those guys your input on that as well.
And that's certainly going to be very key. But for those who weren't with us for Super Split 2 and are just joining us, this track is legendary, up and down and all around, and 6.44 kilometers of perfect championship finale. For those of you who weren't here before, this is Reese Gardner taking you around the fantastic Road America course.
Located in Wisconsin, the cheese state of America, just outside the town of Elkhart Lake, Road America is a rare breed of racetrack in today's motorsport world. It's dominated by straights, linked by heavy braking zones, and turns that vary from sharp to flowing to outright dangerous. It is, for all intents and purposes, America's Monza, and to boot, the main layout of the circuit has not changed at all since the facility was opened in the 1950s. This place is truly historic and mentioned in the same breath has some of the best tracks from Europe. Well, for a track to be historic, it must of course have some history behind it, and Road America has plenty of that. Starting in 1950, sports car racing was held on a temporary street circuit in and around the village of Elkhart Lake. The races, approved by local leaders to revitalize the local economy after a canning factory closed, proved popular, spectators lining the roads. But after a series of accidents, including one at Watkins Glen where a child was killed, racing on public roads was banned in many US states, and there was a nationwide shift to racing on purpose-built permanent circuits. Road America was among the first of the permanent road courses to be constructed in the United States. A highway engineer by the name of Cliff Tufte was the one to organize the building of the new circuit. Tufte was president of the Elkhart Lake Sand and Gravel Company and owned a piece of land to the south of where the Elkhart Lake road races were held. He walked around this parcel of land and designed the basic layout of the track in his head. The circuit was intentionally designed to emulate the sweepers and sharp turns of the original public road circuit, but in a safer environment. Built to the highest standards of the time, Road America opened for business in September of 1955. Tufte was meticulous in the maintenance of this circuit. It is unconfirmed, but it is said that at the beginning, Tufte took road rolling machines over the circuit diagonally every single day to keep the tarmac in top shape. Regardless of the truth of that statement, Road America quickly gained favor among the road racing community, both in the United States and across the world. Aside from safety modifications, including runoff area extensions, the removal of the bridge that once stood over Turn 13, and the installation of a chicane before the kink for motorcycles, the track has stayed steadfast for over half a century, playing host to all forms of American motorsport, from IndyCar to Champ Car to SCCA club racing to prototypes and GTs. Even NASCAR has raced here. This place is steeped in legend, and rightly so. And with straights as long as these, what better track for our 650 horsepower V8 supercars to stretch their legs?
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Virtual Racing School V8 Supercars Online Premier Series, the #1 V8 Supercar League in the world, as we have a little award that we're going to try and get out right now. I believe, Reese, it's the Media Award.
Yes, indeed. Well, there was a bit of deliberation up here in the commentary box between ourselves and the directors, and among Oceanic Sim Racing as well, but eventually there were two teams that ended up taking the best opportunities through the year on social media, and in our opinion, it was Synergy Sim Racing and Redback Racing Team. The question, though, is which one of them would take the award? Well, this community in the last few weeks is no stranger to happy ending for both parties. We decided it's a tie between both of them. They are both going to be receiving half of the prize money for that one.
And that is going to be fantastic for the pair of them. So they get some money. I do not know how much money.
$50 in iRacing credits.
$50 in iRacing credits. Well, that's going to be nice for them. So they will get $50 each in iRacing credits, which they can split however which way that they want to. So that's going to be important to them. So congratulations to them for picking up their respective victories. But two more important victories at hand, potentially, because the championship is still on the line. And let's get up the graphic then of how this championship stands. Jared Filsell, 4,768 points for Trans-Tasman Racing. He currently holds 122 points of advantage over Madison Down, with Ethan Griggolt in third. Jake Burton's in fourth position, 392 points back, has a mathematical chance of taking the championship, but is going to have to rely on a lot of misfortune for the top three. Reese, it's not fully in Jared Filsell's book. He needs 18th or higher to secure the championship.
That's exactly right. So the championship requirements are as follows. Jared is going to take the championship if he finishes 19th, or if Madison is 21st and Ethan is 12th. Madison is going to take the title if he wins this race, while Jared can't finish any higher than 20th. Ethan Grigalt will win if he wins this race, while Jared is 29th and Madison is in 8th. And Jake Burton, the one with the most outside chance out of these guys, he will take the title if both Philsell and Down do not finish, and Ethan Grigalt finishes 36th or lower. So those are the stats that we need to keep track of here. It seems like Jared Philsell may be in the best position, but as we've discussed, Sperry, over the last few days, it can go any which way in this series.
And let's get a breakdown of how these races have gone for all 4 drivers this season. You can see something very, very telling from Jared Philsell, and that is the 2 results that haven't gone well for him, namely Montreal and Laguna Seca, have been dropped, as Madison Down has also had a lot more difficulties. But the key has been for Jared Philsell, the consistency number. You can see all his results have over 414 points currently that he's totaling, the worst being at Mosport. But for Madison Down, he has a few 300s split in the mix. Ethan Grigalt himself also all 400s on his scoring points. But keep an eye on those penalty points which are coming for Jared Philsell. He has copped 80 of them, Reese.
Yeah, he certainly has. In fact, Madison Down, as you can see there, with a big fat 0 next to the penalty points count for him. He has been the driver to avoid the wrath of the stewards the most out of the top 4. Jake Burton with 130 penalty points. You gotta wonder, if that number was smaller, he'd certainly be in a really good running for the title at the moment, wouldn't he?
Oh, he certainly would be in a lot better shape than he is at the moment. But as we all know, anything can change when it comes to this race, and they've got to be completely sure here, Reese, that they have this one under lock and key. Colder conditions mean that qualifying is going to be a little bit more tougher for these drivers today, mainly because they can get more than 1 lap in, and that sometimes is a little bit more emphasis to attack on the opening lap.
Yeah, certainly is. I mean, we've seen a pattern in qualifying this season, particularly in the sessions that have been hotter. The drivers go out for their first lap, and that ultimately may end up being their quickest. Further on in the 20-minute session, as the track heats up and more drivers, put down rubber, heat up the racing line, then the track gets a bit slower. We might not see that here. 28 degrees Celsius track, but the sun is not hitting the tarmac. No UV rays soaking into the tarmac atom. So who knows? We might see drivers going for 2-lap runs here.
And what is going to be even more telling, and I think this is one which I haven't actually ever got to say in terms of my career in V8SCOPS. This is the first time in about a year and 2/3, I think, Reese, that we have not seen a woman inside of the top split.
Yeah, that is very true. Both Mary Hrushka and Emily Jones not here today. So that's a bit of a shame, but ultimately I am certain they will come back next season. We'll see if we can see them at the final round next year in a year's time. It's one for the boys today, have to say.
Well, it is one for the boys, but they all know that they've got to get their good results in. In terms of practice times, it's Ethan Grigalt who has been setting the pace, Jared Philsell 2nd, and Jake Burton currently in 3rd. But practice times don't mean anything. Of course, in a minute's time, qualifying will be the big one that everyone will be keeping an eye out on. And of course, track position, so vital when it comes to qualifying. Getting yourself a good amount of space, especially across this 2-minute track like this one. Yes, it's a 6.4-kilometer track, but if you don't have draft, you are at such a disadvantage.
You absolutely are, and we've seen in the past teams coordinating their driver exits from the pits to basically form little draft packs, try and get the best lap times for all of their drivers before the session is out. 20 minutes, not a very long time though, so that altogether equates. Remember, we got to say it again, Sperry, the no escape rule. The drivers have to make a full in-lap back to the pits afterwards. I think drivers are only going to get, at best, 1 full run.
Well, they'll need to get one full run correct, and of course, with how long it is to get out, you've got to be out there going, look at this, Madison Down and Jared Filsell side by side coming out of the pits, and instantly Ethan Griggolt cedes to Madison Down. So your three protagonists at the front of qualifying, they wanted to be out first to get going, and now Griggolt's got a little bit of a worry here because Josh Muggleton's gone through as well. I think Ethan Griggolt is looking at this train of Trans-Tasman cars and going, well, I want to be on a certain part of the train, and now this is going to be a little bit worrying for those drivers at the front of the field because they will be killing their tyres just to break a gap away from Ethan Griggolt.
Yeah, they absolutely will. And they do want to preserve these tyres still. The track might be a bit grippier because of no UV, but they still got to look after the tyres around this track. It's a very abrasive surface here at Road America. Very sharp corners, very high load corners as well. So looking after your tyres is paramount around here in qualifying and in the race. So what is going to happen on the first run of hot laps? Hard to tell at this stage, but Madison Down is currently behind Jared Filsell, and he will be leading the pack.
Well, I'm just a little bit concerned for Jake Burton here because he's been running too wide for the last two corners with Ian Ford, and he's managed to get himself ahead. So now qualifying becomes very crucial. Madison Down is in the prime position here as tucked behind the championship leader and the reigning champion coming into this event. And now on this qualifying lap, he'll be getting the full effect of Jared Filsell pulling him along. And that's going to be so vital. Does drop back a little bit though, so it looks like Josh Muggleton's going to be maybe potentially compromised over the course of this lap. And I think this is going to be a little bit of fair play here from Madison, just trying to give a little bit of a gap so that he doesn't pull into Jared Filsell over the course of this flying lap. And let's go on board with the number one for the start of this flying lap up the hill towards turn number one. He will go at over 250 kilometers an hour, 260, 265, 268 onto the brakes, early on the brakes in through turn number one, all over the curb and on the exit as well. Getting a little bit of grass. He's got to be careful of that though on the exit before hitting turn number three here, Reese. And now the run to five, the prime overtaking opportunity.
That's exactly right. The track here just sweeps slightly to the right and then to the left once again into the braking zone for turn 5 here at Road America. You're looking out for those numbered boards on the right. 5, 4, between 4 and 3 is where Jared Filsell brakes, just riding the curb on entry, missing the apex and all the way over that black exit curve. And this is the slowest section of the circuit. Just cresting the hill, going over this left-hander, careful on the throttle, through this right-hand kink, just brushing the brakes, using all the curb on the inside and on the outside as well. You get to the hurry downs, and then the most iconic corner on this track, Sperry, the carousel.
And let's not forget that there is some supercar royalty watching this event. A certain Shane van Gisbergen has decided to show up and watch this one. So heads up, boys. You are going to be looking at this one, and I'm getting a heads up from where I am looking right now. He's actually sat in race control at the moment, so we'll keep an eye on that one as well. So for Madison Down and Jared Filsell, they've got to put the best lap times in. Same for Ethan Griggolt, who's had a little bit of a gap towards Josh Muggleton over the course of this lap. Now it's Bill Mitchell Bend for Jared Filsell and Madison Down. We'll see who will set the flying lap time the best as they now make it to the final corner and trying to make this one work to favour them. Out of the final corner, I think Jared Filsell will be slightly quicker over the course of this lap. We will see what they will do. We've seen some unofficial lap times come in from those who started behind the start-finish line. Jared Filsell does a 2:06.961, and look at that, just close, and look at that, how close it is. 6,000 says Griggolt is fastest.
My goodness, that is the kind of title fight we got going right now. We've got all 4 of our championship contenders in the top 4 right now, covered by just over 100th of a second. How good is that?
Brett Loxton, keep an eye on him as he will make his push up the hill. Just in front of him is Tom Curran, of course, a former Aussie footballer racing at Redback Racing. Used to play for North Melbourne, but there is Brett Loxton, 207.570. That is good enough for 11th position at the moment. Sam Sutton up to 7th. Wayne Burke, though, comfortably knocks him off as he puts himself 14 thousandths behind the Trick Sim Sport car of Forzan El Nabi in 6th position. So your top 4 are currently your championship rivals, Grig Galt, Phil Down and Burton. But my goodness, were Trans-Tasman not hoping that Grig Galt would be part of the script.
Yeah, certainly. That's not going to make the Trans-Tasman guys very happy. We are currently focused on Michael Taliancic, though, making his way through the kink. He has not set a lap time yet, one of quite a few drivers in the server at the moment who have not set a time. Just making his way down to Canada Corner, and just behind him you can see David Kinmond really struggling with the rear end of that car. Of course, we saw a lot of drivers struggling with the rear end in Split 2, but these cold conditions just exacerbate that.
Yeah, of course, oversteer is going to be a huge factor in this event, and drivers who are not careful are going to have to be really, really cautious about how they attack certain drivers. Jake Maloney, for example, he's back in the series racing. He's currently in 18th position right now in qualifying, and that's quite telling. If you've been out of the car for a little while, like Jake Maloney has been, it means that these qualifying sessions just get a lot more difficult from those who've been driving the car week to week or race to race.
Yeah, and that's something that has been true for the entire existence of the V8 supercar in iRacing, as Grig Galt apparently going for another lap here. That's very interesting to see. But while Grig Galt goes about that is correct, Sperry. You know, I've been around this scene for quite some time, and the one thing that keeps cropping up in the supercar community on iRacing is track time. The fastest guys in this machine drive this car day in, day out. It is almost the only car they drive in sim racing, or at least the only one that they drive with any degree of seriousness. That's how dedicated they are to this car and this series.
They are very dedicated, and they are hoping that they get the good laps in that they want for the final race of the year. Of course, conditions 1 year ago were pretty different to what they are now. They were glorious in sunshine, and that led to completely different conditions to what they're racing year to year. So now this is going to be very difficult to actually bring back anything relevant from their experiences. The track is going to be quicker. The track is going to be slippier. This track is going to be a nightmare for drivers trying to make overtakes, and that top 20 looks absolutely stacked. You look at the bottom of it, Nick Cummings in 20th position, but you've got the likes of Glenn Postlethwaite, Brett Loxton, Brady Myers is in there, Sam Blacklock, Luke Harvey, Daniel Williams, who absolutely loves and adores this circuit. He's been doing so well here. This is one of these tracks which I think a lot of drivers are looking at going, this is going to be a tough one to get right, as 37 drivers have currently set lap times out of the 41 who could contest the start. 3 drivers who haven't set lap times: David Sanford, Christopher Kessie, and Chris Robinson.
Yes, and all 3 of those guys are currently out on track looking to set a time. The session is nearly at its halfway point, so this may be the only full run that these guys are going to get in. Will be interesting, though, to see what lap times they can do. There's Sanford on a flying lap for All-Star Motorsports. Currently got our eyes trained on him as he makes his way down the Hurry Downs.
Yes, and through the 90-degree left-hander before heading to this carousel, this lovely right-hander, which really does test the tyre grip that you have, and all the rubber gets deposited out onto the marbles on the outside. And Sanford pretty calm then as he heads through that section under the bridge, and now to the kink. Don't go too wide at the kink. A certain Kazuki Umeshima will tell you, you never go too wide at the kink. And now through the Kettle Bottoms towards Canada Corner, and this fantastic 90-degree right-hander that comes up on the brakes. A great overtaking opportunity, and then for 2 more corners, Sanford will look to push. It seems like it's going to be a banker lap for him. A 2:08 wouldn't be too bad. If he can just push a 2:07, he'll be up there looking at the top 30, and I think that's something that David Sanford will be hoping to get out of this one. A good qualifying time gets him through. A car spins just in front of him. That's Richard Hamstead, who's had himself a pretty big moment, but Here comes Sanford. Over to the line he goes, and he will commit himself to a 2:08.8. That puts him 37th out of 38 through a set times here, Reese.
Yes, indeed, and we cannot emphasize enough just how difficult it is to make your way up the field in a championship as close as this. To even get into top split at all is considered an achievement. So Sanford, he's got a bit of work to do if he wants to make those positions up, but I do think he has it in him. Meanwhile, we're looking at Jared Filsell, who is out on another qualifying run. Behind him, we've got Postlethwaite and Williams. And Filsell, no draft at the moment, or just very small sniff of one from Jamie McKnight. But I definitely think, you know, you got to remember, Filsell set his current lap time, which is P2, without a draft. So I think Filsell's got this thing sorted. The car, at least.
Well, I think he's got the car sorted. I don't think he's got this guaranteed, though, because Jared Filsell has got to get draft in terms of this race. There is one thing that he does know. Madison Down's not helping him, nor is Jake Burton. The key factor is he needs to get Josh Muggleton to go and help him out, his teammate in the championship, to get him the lap times that are needed. Ethan Griggolt is only 6 thousandths down the road, but the longer he leaves this track is going to get more rubbered in, it's going to get a lot more hotter, and that iRacing dynamic track really does not help to putting in more lap times again and again and again, especially in these V8s, which really, really do hunker down on this sort of track.
Yeah, they definitely do. Road America, one of the tracks that really highlights how these cars work with all of those high load corners, very stop-start, point-and-shoot sections in the middle. Jared Filsell going across the line for this particular run, setting a 2:06.946, and that puts him P1 right there.
Yeah, and that is absolutely perfect. Ethan Griggolt also didn't have the draft, but that's 11 thousandths back to Jared Filsell. So Griggolt had no draft, Filsell had no draft. Filsell's found a morsel quicker. Now Griggolt's got to do exactly the same. They are pushing it by thousandths as Griggolt himself now on a flying lap and looking to find something more out of his 117 Evolution Racing Team car to put himself right in the money. Has no draft from Madison Down in front either, and now you start to wonder, was that third lap advisable from Ethan Griggolt?
Yeah, I don't know, he might have just been doing it for fuel numbers or something like that, but I don't know why you would do that in a qualifying session, especially with the amount of prep that these guys do for this race. But I honestly don't know what the point was of Griggolt doing that third lap. Nonetheless, he has shown that he's got the pace to challenge for P1. He just needs to put it together. I don't know if the track's past its prime, though.
Well, we've seen Filsell put the lap time in and show everyone that it isn't past its prime, but Griggolt now making the push towards the Canada corner, and he's using everything, a little wiggle on the outside curve, just trying to find the grip that makes it accessible. And well, for the time being at least, it seems that close is one thing, but we'll see what Griggolt's able to do, running all of the curb at Canada. Now to Bill Mitchell. Griggolt will look, and you can see he is now attacking every curb, almost as if that they have to be pretty much clobbered at every point. And through the final corner he will go up towards the line, will charge Ethan Griggolt, and we'll see if he can find that 11 thousandths of a second to put him back on pole position. He's hoping, and the answer is that hope is not enough. A 3/10 of a second deficit then, and now it just gets even harder from here.
Yeah, it absolutely does. So Ethan Griggolt, he either has to go for the pits right now to get one more lap in at the end, or stick with this one and do a second run. I think that he'll have to bring it back in and go out for one more shot at this.
Well, he's got to get fresh tyres if he's going to get any sort of run sorted. He's only got 5 and a little bit minutes to go here in qualifying. The good news with this sort of qualifying, though, Reese, is that you get till the end of your lap to finish it once time expires. So if it does get to 19 minutes and 59 seconds and Griggolt's across the line, he's got another lap. Same for Madison Down, same for Jake Burton.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So these guys have to time their last runs properly to get the best out of that. We're currently looking at Richard Hamstead right now, who's making his way into the carousel. Richard Hamstead, actually, no, wrong place on the track. He's in Hurry Downs. Richard Hamstead, good run in this session so far. He is currently in the top 5, not too far off those championship contenders.
He's only 0.2 of a second off and an extra 100th. So Richard Hamstead having a very good qualifying by his standards. Forzan El Nabi, good for him as well in 6th. Wayne Burke 7th and Sam Sutton in 8th. It's Sam Blacklock who has moved up tonight, and Ian Ford, the Evolution Racing team, rounds out the top 10. But this is more than meets the eye, it seems, at this stage. Let's look a little bit further down to around the top 20 and down, because Marlon J. McMullen 22nd, Thomas Hinds in 23rd, Ross Rizzo there in 24th position. He's had a great season by his standards, and he makes positions in races, so I'm expecting top 15 by the end of the race.
Yeah, and of course, we got to think about the strategy as well, because we know that Ross Rizzo loves to play his strategy games. It's an 85% fuel tank restriction. No, 75%. My apologies. Yeah, so it's 83 litres, is it, in the tank?
Around about that. I don't drive this gun. 84 litres then. They will get in the vehicle, and that's going to be a key factor as well into how they decide their strategy, because those 39 laps, those pit stops will happen a little bit earlier. In is Ethan Grigalt looking to make his stop. Jake Burton is down in on the lane as well. They are waiting for their time to get out and get their flying lap done, that final flying lap, which is so crucial to them. Christopher Kessie, currently the slowest man out on circuit on a 209.1. And I'm sure that he will be not too pleased with the fact that I'm pointing out that he is the slowest. But either way, he'll be looking to try and make sure that he finds a little bit more in terms of his final lap. But now you're starting to worry here. 3 minutes to go. This is the last dash that you go in and get your tyres as El Navi hits the lane, Sutton hits the lane, all looking to try and find themselves that extra bit of life, as Jamie McKnight will look to try and go a little bit quicker. He's currently 30th at the moment in the 027 machine, and over the line he goes, and it will start a flying lap of his own, so he will not have time to come down in and get new tyres as we look at Wayne Burke.
Yes, so Burke coming across the line. That lap is going to be going for a new flyer. Burke currently sitting in position 7, so a very good run from him here at the moment. He will be looking to improve, though. You see how close it is there up the front. Only a few tenths separating them. Ian Ford now we are looking at coming out of Carousel and into the kink.
Yeah, and Ian Ford currently the last spot inside of the top 10. Get this, only half a second off here in qualifying. It has been incredibly close. How close do you ask? Well, I'll tell you this. The top 27 are all within a second of Jared Filsell. That's how close it is here in qualifying, and just how strong this field is for the final race as we see Ford make his way through Bill Mitchell Bend, heavy over the curb on the inside. I wonder if he's overcut that too much. He'll have one final chance to get a lap time in as Ford makes his way out to the final corner in a Holden, I may add, and now will look to try and make his way under the Caterpillar Bridge over to the start-finish line. 2-minute warning and under is through. 2:07.6 will not improve.
No. We look at Filsell again, though. Will he be able to maintain his P1 here? He is on a flying lap, and he has already proven that he does not need the draft to set fast lap times. He's going to bring it into the pits there. So that's going to be Filsell's session over. He's going to be hoping that the others can't improve.
Well, keep an eye on Sam Blacklock as he makes his way out to the final corner. Can he go any better than 9th position? Glenn Postlethwaite as well, I think, has run himself into a few issues. He's got himself going again, but Postlethwaite will not improve. Does Sam Blacklock? Answers no. He'll go on to a flying lap. Now you start looking backwards. Luke Harvey trying to get himself over the line, as is McKnight, as is Brady Myers trying to make it through in the 22. 2:07.8 will not improve. Now Grigalt will get that final lap in that he needs. Harvey across the line gets one more lap. Glenn Postlethwaite just about gets one more lap in. And now you start thinking backwards. Kinman will get the lap. Hamstead's done. Robinson's done. Ross Rizzo maybe has the shot of getting to the line, and he's dragging Forzan Elnabi with him to try and slingshot him an extra position up. So Rizzo trying to help out his teammate. They both get across the line with 10 seconds to go. Greg Sharp just about gets there with 6. Does Kessie? Does Jake Burton crucially get himself over the line? No, he does not. Time expired on Jake Burton as he crossed the line. He will not get another lap time done, and now all eyes turn to 2 drivers out there on circuit. One is not Madison Down, so Ethan Grigalt now probably the only driver who can change the fate of Jared Filsell, making his way through the middle of the lap now as things stand through the hurry downs and towards this next left-hander. And for the looks of things, it seems that Jake Burton, or a Jake of some sort, Maloney I think it was, who needed to get a tow, gets the tow and will not be able to do anything more. Grigalt through the carousel on his 8th lap of qualifying and trying to get the power down as early as he can, and he is fluid as anything through that section, uses all of the track, and now into the kink. He is perfect through this section as he now looks to ramp up the power to Canada Corner, going at over 245 kilometers an hour, over 250, now hitting 260. On the brakes he goes and looking for something more that's in there. 11 thousandths he's been searching for. He needs that position, that one position that allows him to defend against Jared Filsell. What can Ethan Grigalt find as he makes his way out of Bill Mitchell and into turn 14, the final corner out on circuit, up the rise?
Oh no!
And pull it onto the lane. He cannot go any quicker than he can. Can anybody else find a little bit more time? Glenn Postlethwaite cannot. Harvey cannot. We search to Forzan Elnabi now, who makes his way through Bill Mitchell Bend. He was only 0.3 of a second behind Jared Filsell, and with the draft that he was able to accrue off of his teammate Ross Rizzo, he may have something and he will not. So that will pretty much single out everybody's times done here in qualifying, with Burton just not making it over the line. The grid shall be as follows for the final race of the season. Jared Filsell will get pole position on a 206.946, 11 thousandths ahead of Ethan Grigalt, with Madison Down a further 21 thousandths back. Jake Burton will start from 4th, with Richard Hampstead on row 3 with Forzan Elnabi. Wayne Burke starts 7th with Sam Sutton, the military man, in 8th position, the 888 machine, with Sam Blacklock 9th, and Ian Ford rounding out 10th.
Filsell's teammate Josh Muggleton will line up in 11th, with Glenn Postlethwaite in 12th. Brady Myers making it 13th. Brett Loxton, awesome stuff from him there in 14th position. Luke Harvey rounding out the top 15, with Daniel Williams in 16th. Riley Blythe, Jake Maloney, Kurt Stenberg, and Marlon McMullen rounding out the top 20.
Nick Cummings starts in the blackjack position of 21st, with Ethan Warren, 2 Little Ducks, in 22nd. Row 12 will see Thomas Hinds and Ross Rizzo alongside each other, with Brad Ryan in 25th and James Scott in 26th position. Andrew Gilliam will start 27th, with Brett Cananzi in 28th, and then it's your split 2 winner in James Duckworth, with Michael Taliancic starting 30th.
Jamie McKnight is going to start the final 10 here, with Kane Hewson in 32nd, Michael Cracknell 33rd, Andrew Fraser lining up in 34th, with Chris Robinson and David Kinman 35th and 36th. Your 40 car field here is rounded out by Greg Sharp, Tom Curran, Christopher Kessie, and David Sanford. Gridding is commencing.
Oh, how you wish Shane van Gisbergen was racing there, Reece. So how you wish. But this is the final round of the season. This is the last chance. And for Jared Filsell, he needs a top 19, and the championship is all his. But we saw from Super Split 2, the caution could come out at any time and change the complexity of the game. We've seen just how difficult this track can be. We've seen how aggressive drivers can be. Ethan Grigalt is the first of the rivals to put himself onto the grid with the 2-minute gridding procedure that they have here to get themselves up and ready to go. And the number one wants to retain the number one on his vehicle. 13 race victories this season over the course of a fantastic and thrilling 25+ races that we've seen. And at every stage, it has not failed to surprise any of you watching the Virtual Racing School V8 Supercars online premiere series. This is where heroes and villains are going to be made. And if you can hold your nerve, a championship may be yours. Watch out, though, for row 3. Hamstead and El Nabi could force themselves into this situation if they are not too careful. So now, just hold your breath, calm your nerves, and time will be of the essence. It's 39 laps worth of racing action that we're going to have at a gloomy and overcast Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. And for Jared Filsell, it's the case of holding off Greg Galt, Madison Down, and Jake Burton. Lights on top of the iRacing gantry. Let's get ourselves then. Green and go, and Greg Galt gets a slow one off of the front row, and that's not going to be helpful because Madison Down didn't get the best start either. You can see already how now Jake Burton wants to get in. He gives a bump to his rival here in terms of Greg Galt. Down is so aggressive on the brakes into turn number 1. He takes second position away as now Richard Hamstead gets past his man of Jake Burton. Little bit of toing and throwing in the middle of the pack now as it all shuffles up behind Ian Ford on the brakes into turn number 3. No real worries then from your first 15.
Messed up the exit
from Wayne Burke, and it was a mistake, yes, from Jared Filsell. Here comes Madison Down, thinking about can he make the move all over the rear. He will try and make it, looking down to the inside, but backs off of it. Hamstead coming down the inside of Ethan Greg Galt. Can he pull it up? He can. That's 3 wide in the background as well, and they somehow hold it.
They somehow do. Look, there's a couple of cars around. Brady Myers involved in that. Oh, that is Kurt Stenberg and Thomas Hins as well involved in a big incident there. Goodness me. Few cars involved in that. My goodness, the crash has continued. Christopher Kessie involved in that one. Michael Cracknell along with Brett Cananzi too. Many cars involved in that one. That's going to take a while to pick apart. We're staying green.
Staying green, but there's contact, and that's Josh Muggleton, and it forces everyone 6s and 7s in the middle of the pack. And now they're trying to find a little bit of room as they go 3 wide through the carousel, and sneaking through was Marlon McMullen, who may have to serve a slowdown as Glenn Postlethwaite serves his. But still at the front, it is Jared Filsell, Madison Down, Ethan Greg Galt, and then Richard Hamstead has moved his way up into 4th position for TTL Esports. It has been an action-packed start of 39, and it's starting to get a little bit dicey at the moment as we stay green. For the time being, Brett Loxton trying to harass Jake Maloney in the middle of the pack as well, with Blacklock under pressure from Daniel Williams.
Yes, indeed, and there's quite a few drivers getting very leery in the middle of the pack. Brad Ryan almost got turned going into the kink. He managed to hold on to it, though. We're going to get a replay of the start here. So we're currently looking at this here on the broadcast. Bit jostling in there in the back of the pack, but Filsell leading his way into turn 1. And this is one of the bigger choke points here at turn 3. Filsell, you could see, went a bit hot into turn 3, had to get on the throttle a little bit later. That could have opened up an opportunity for Down to attack, but he chose not to. He chose to bump Filsell's bumper, possibly to get them a little bit more ahead of Ethan Greg Galt. Now we're going to watch Brady Myers, which is one of the main cars involved in this incident. We're looking currently at from Sam Blacklock's perspective of all of this. No, Brady Myers actually, my goodness. Let's have a look at this. Coming down to turn 5, he goes for the move on the ERT car, the 67, and it just seems like he got hit.
Wow. I think that Daniel Williams hit Brett Loxton, then that caused the chain reaction, which seemingly caused this one to go all shades of haywire. But at the front of this field, it is still Filsell, but it is a train of 8 with Forzan Onabi at the back. Wayne Burke in this one as well. Philsell has been unable to pull away in the Jared Philsell style, as I believe Brett Cananzi has found himself in an incident and has kept things green. He has been able to get the vehicle recovered without the need of a caution being thrown. But my goodness me, this has been alert driving, and everyone's been a little bit nervous here. They've seen the overcast skies and they've gone, right, it's time to race. Everyone is sort of half wanting to make the moves here, knowing they've got no other opportunities to make it happen.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And this race, 250 kilometers, 39 laps with 2 pit stops. There's an awful lot that can define your race here, so you need to get it all right. You can't afford to be making those silly moves too early.
No, you can't, and I think that that's what Madison Down was thinking about. Okay, get some drivers away, then start fighting Jared Philsell one-on-one and see if anything happens with him. I think that's what these drivers have to be thinking about. Drivers who are out, Michael Cracknell, Brett Cananzi, looking on pit road, Thomas Hinz is trying to get himself back out and going again. Other drivers who are a lap down include Christopher Kessie in all of this as well. So a lot of drivers have struggled, but now it's a case of what can you do? Eyes again to the front, because Madison Down is currently acting as a rear gunner slightly for Jared Philsell. If anybody is going to make this powder keg explode, it will be Greg Golt or Hampstead, who will want to make their ways through as quickly as possible. Madison backs out of it once again. Got to be careful about that, because there's Ethan Greg Golt right up to the back bumper, as again Philsell locks up the rears.
Yes, indeed, Richard Hampstead having a couple of problems there in the background as well, but Philsell, he's managing to hold on at the front only just. These guys all just settling into their rhythm right now. They can't, as I said before, they can't afford to make any silly moves too early. You will see everything happen towards the end. For now, it's just a waiting game. It's just making sure that you stay in touch with your rivals.
And Andrew Gilliam loses 2 positions, one to Glenn Postlethwaite, one to Riley Blythe, being too aggressive through turn 6, and as such a position goes a-begging for him. That was not part of the script for him, and we'll be hoping that he can get those positions back if he tries. Second pack now, he's seeing Luke Harvey on an island on his own, but Jake Maloney, Sam Blacklock, Daniel Williams, Marlon McMullen, Brett Loxton, and Josh Muggleton desperately trying to keep Nick Cummings with him. At the moment, this little pack is trying to stay all together, but they are splintering ever so slightly, and they can't afford to do that because they'll have no chance of chasing down the likes of Burke, Sutton, Burton, Hampstead, and the Philsell train right at the very front of this field. They know they are losing out. It's now Sam Sutton starting to drop off the back of this train, hounded by Synergy's Wayne Burke.
Yes, indeed. That's one of the things about Road America. We talk about the overtaking opportunities around here, but actually getting it done, especially in cars like this that are so leery under the brakes, it's a very hard ask, certainly. And we are still looking here at Wayne Burke, who's making his way through here on Sam Sutton into turn 1. That looked like a fairly easy move there. Well and truly got it. Can Sutton come back at him, though? He's going to have a look.
Well, he tries, but he's just not able to get that braking speed the way that he wants. The military man, you wonder if it wasn't for all his service, he'd be up there fighting for championships. Such has been his pace over the couple of races we've seen him attend. So he's right up there and proving that he's got the pace. Keep an eye on technical issues for Glenn Postlethwaite, which could have probably prematurely ended his season, and that won't be good for Synergy's driver, Postlethwaite. Oh, it's just an epitome of his season, really.
Yeah, certainly is. Postlethwaite, he's one of those guys that shows potential all the time, especially at Phillip Island. It's become a sort of a trend in V8SCOPS, a tradition. We go to Phillip Island, Synergy come out, and one of the fastest teams out there. But Glenn Postlethwaite, unfortunately, the rest of his season has not lived up to that. And Wayne Burke with a tech issue as well.
Uh-oh. That's not going to be very helpful, and Synergy are all of a sudden dropping left and right, and Wayne Burke, who is up there in 6th position, is all of a sudden MIA and out. So that's not going to be helpful for him either. So a couple of issues then for them as they have their racing. We are good though for the moment. Philsell leading this one at the moment, taking the early pace. Now I wonder if Madison Down is going for the strategy of run Philsell out of fuel quicker. With the reduced fuel tanks, it means that there's slightly less strategy, but you can run the fuel tank out a little bit faster here, Reese.
Yeah, you certainly can, and the big advantage of being in the draft here, when you're in a situation like this, is the fact that you can lift and coast a bit, save a bit of fuel. That's probably what's at the forefront of Madison Down's mind right now. He's keeping it within half a second of Phil Selwa.
I was just having a look at Michael Talyancic, and he just made contact through Bill Mitchell with Riley Blythe, and of course, the two of them were teammates previously, but here's Talyancic trying to get himself back up through and gets a good run, but look at the swarm behind. Riley Blythe is struggling, and there's the block being thrown, and all of a sudden, scything through the middle is Jamie McKnight, who will get all of them in one fell swoop. 3 positions in one straight, and forces wide a certain Talyancic.
Wow. Meanwhile, Glenn Postlethwaite stopped on track, but that was a very good move from Jamie McKnight. Glenn Postlethwaite may be blown up. Yeah, he stopped in the gravel track at turn 1. He's moving, but that is certainly not optimal. Replay on screen right now.
Wow, my goodness, Glenn Postlethwaite, he has struggled. Wow. Got himself going. My goodness, that looked horrible. He managed to keep it going, but that engine is due to expire at any moment. That is a technical difficulty.
It certainly is, and he is having multiple difficulties even keeping that thing on the track right now. That must have been something going awry with his pedals or something, because there was no sign of that car slowing down for turn 1 at all.
The brake decided it didn't want to be a brake, and as such, it broke. As we look at Daniel Williams right now in his own little scrap, he's got Sam Blacklock in front, and Williams is giving Blacklock a good run for the money at the moment, and Blacklock probably doesn't know what he's looking at. My goodness me! That one very nearly ended in disaster. Daniel Williams is riding from the seat of his pants.
Oh, goodness me. Pants that will probably be a bit dirtier now. Goodness me. Just catching the curb on the entry into the kink. That's the last thing you want to do here at Road America, because that grass is right there and it will bite you instantly. Blacklock getting into the grass a little bit as well, so he's starting to really feel the pressure. There's cracks opening up all throughout the field, but we look back to the front though, because Greg Galt is now in the draft of Madison Down. This could potentially be a move for second.
It certainly could. The gap at the front has extended to now 0.6 of a second for Jared Filselli, starting to get a little bit of a hurry on, and that's what Greg Galt's looking at here. Get past Madison Down, get your own hurry on going. Hampstead comfortably sitting in 4th position, Burton on the back of the train in 5th. Probably a very long outside shot for this championship, but Greg Galt now has to start thinking about, okay, did I bottle my chance for the championship, or now do I need to start thinking about making moves as quickly as I can to get forward? At the moment, there's not much he can do. He has to decide to sit and wait as Madison Down goes very deep on the brakes and locks up going through turn 5, and that's going to be the key here. As drive-through penalty goes for Brad Ryan here, as I'm hearing, as well as Andrew Fraser, as well as Glenn Postlethwaite, all getting penalties. So the first penalties are coming in from the opening laps here, Reese.
Yeah, and many penalties getting handed out. I can imagine there was a fair quarter of the field involved in just that one incident coming through turns 5 and 6. So race control with a certain Mr. Van Gisbergen in there as well, doing their job there.
And James Duckworth gives a tap to Kane Hewson as Hewson holds off a huge train behind him. Sanford, Kinman, Blythe, Fraser, Greg Sharp in there as well. So Duckworth not making friends, but he's certainly getting more than enough as he makes another position. Hewson now battling it out for this 26th position, trying to fend off David Sanford in the All-Star Motorsports car. Sanford up 12 of his own and having this good scrap in the middle to late pack.
Yeah, certainly. That's a very nice pack that's evolved there. Just behind them, we've got Kinman, Blythe, and Fraser too, along with Greg Sharp. Thomas Hens trailing behind in a very sorry-looking number 62 Ford Falcon. Of course, he was one of the guys majorly involved in the wreck at 5 and 6. Of course, I believe through no fault of his own. We haven't seen a penalty given out for him at the moment, so he may be an innocent party there, but nonetheless, this battle pack certainly right on it at the moment. Duckworth has run a little bit wide on the exit, left himself open to an attack here from Hewson. Much better run there as we see Andrew Fraser going in to serve his penalty. And Hewson versus Duckworth down the front stretch. Sanford doesn't have anywhere to go at the moment. He can't squeeze up the middle of these two. He has to stick him behind, possibly get the inside here on Duckworth. Still running side by side, might be able to get it done here at turn 3, but of course they got to be careful of the following straight. Kane Hewson though, he's gotten a bit of a gap here, which he definitely needs right now.
Yep. And that gap is looking as Greg Gault still looking to try and get past Madison Down, but again, just sat in behind the locked brakes of Jared Filsell, which seemingly locks up at almost every 90-degree corner, it seems, using all of the tyre tread that's available, and there's no flat spotting as such. But what he is doing is he's using more of that tread, meaning those tyres will be a lot more used up come the second half of that stint. And Filsell, in all of his attempts to break away right now, is using up more tyre life. This will help Madison Down and Ethan Griggold at the second half of the opening stint, as Hampstead ever so slightly pushes wide through that right-hand kick.
Yes, indeed. Hampstead starting to fall back into the clutches of Jake Burton here. Now, we've seen Hampstead and Burton come together a couple of times this year. Once, of course, in the first round, Sperry. These guys, there's probably no love lost between these two, but they both know how to race. I've seen them in the past. They both have it in them to race cleanly. We'll see how it turns out this time, as Burton has a bit of a draft here.
Yep, Jake Burton looking to try and get back 4th position. Ethan Griggold looking to get back 2nd position in this one. So 2 battles inside of the top 5. The gap comes down to half a second. Here comes Griggold thinking, but it's only a thought at turn number 1, was never alongside. He's just trying to get in the mirrors of Madison Down at 2nd position. And will he think about turn 3, where he blew his engine up 1 year ago? No, he won't, but he will now get a fantastic run coming off of the exit. Madison Downer has only fringes of a draft at this stage, and Ethan Griggold has got to make this move swiftly if he wants to get by. Pulls out to the left-hand side, but now has no draft to help him, where, of course, Madison Down does. Down is a lot better on the brakes, though, into that left-hander, and still Griggold thinks about making the move, but he needs to be stronger on the brakes if he is to get past Madison Down. Down is the last of the late breakers, as again, Filsell locks up.
Yes, indeed. That's what I'm noticing about Griggold's braking. It's just not as strong as it likely needs to be. He's unable to get the car sliding up the inside into those braking zones like he needs to. But who knows? Maybe Griggold is comfortable sitting behind Down for this first stint. Maybe we'll see him try and make a decisive move once they make their first stop.
That first stop could be so vital for the drivers in this event. That strategy card, which can be pulled out of thin air and could change the entire complexity of the way this race is run. The front 5 have had a good run, but you can see how Madison Down has struggled over the course of this lap and is starting to drop Jared Filsell. All of a sudden, Filsell's thinking, if there's a second here, I can start running off for the hills and do what I do best, as Down uses all of the track, but it's a lot better on the exit there from Griggold through that Canada corner and into Bill Mitchell Bend. It seems that Griggold's got to get the hurry up message here from Brenton O'Brien, team boss. Get going, make the move, start finding the pace to close down Jared Filsell. You've got no chance of the championship otherwise, and up the hill once again they'll go, which really does help the draft for Ethan Griggold. It seems that still there's not quite enough there to try and make it. 0.8 of a second now, the gap down to the inside goes Ethan Griggold, trying to make this one work. He is later on the brakes, and can he get it sorted just about into a second? And here comes Hampstead.
Yes, indeed. Hampstead now sees that gap opened, and Ethan Griggold will want nothing more than for Hampstead to get involved right now, because that will give him the opportunity to streak away. Have a look at that. Hampstead going side by side with Down. I think Madison's cracked as Maloney goes into the pits. First driver to stop.
The first driver to come in, and he calls early on lap 9. Look at this, though. Madison Down a lot later on the brakes, trying to hold it as Hampstead can't get it sorted. This will allow Burton a chance to go through, and all of a sudden it's 3 Trans-Tasman cars inside of the top 4. So just like that, there is the opportunistic Scarlet Pimpernel himself, Jake Burton, stealing a position and doing exactly what he needed to do. The pit stop window is open now, and drivers will be thinking, when is my time to come down onto lane, as Ethan Grigalt now suddenly finds himself a second back of Jared Filsell and needs to push hard.
He absolutely does, but speaking of Grigalt, how good was his spatial awareness going into turn 5 there? He saw down going very late on the brakes and just stayed a car width wide just to let down, get a little bit up alongside his rear bumper without making contact. That's allowed both of them to continue on. Well done.
Yeah, well played indeed, and he's made sure that he's lost minimal time in terms of that one as well. As now Madison Down's got his own teammate to think about in Jake Burton, who's got absolutely nothing to lose in this sort of race. And as we know, these two have no team orders between them at this stage. Second pack now is being fronted by Luke Harvey, and in that pack is Blacklock, Williams and Loxton. This is the pack 8th to 11th out on circuit, and this one here is all about how Daniel Williams is trying to break Blacklock and Harvey at the front. He's spent a good 5 laps behind them at the moment, and probably maybe thinking about a pit stop to try and gain that advantage, as actually on cue as a dummy being thrown by Sam Blacklock.
Oh, love it. You usually only see that in oval racing under caution, but apparently it works in the V8s as well. Daniel Williams looking for that gap there on Blacklock, but just doesn't have the run right now. And Blacklock, a little bit of a better exit out of turn 1 as well. Him and Luke Harvey doing a good job at the front of this train right now, just holding station against Williams and Mr. Loxton behind them. And this is one of the things that you notice about Road America. You see drivers split off into these 4, sometimes 5-car draft train. Yeah.
Look at this, down the inside goes Forzan as he gets past Sam Sutton. It's a block pass. Sutton had to check that one up, otherwise he was going to be mincemeat on the exit. But that there for Forzan El Nabi is the Forzan of old at Performance Sim Sport. No hold, reckless abandon down the inside. I'm making the move, and it's your job to avoid me.
Yeah, that's it. So Forzan's old self can come out at opportune times, and I think that's really shown that in a way, I guess he's really grown as a driver this year. Since joining Trek, he's gotten himself right on the strategy game, taking Bathurst with Ross Rizzo, but when it comes to an out-and-out racing battle, you still see Forzan El Nabi get out the chops when it's needed. Unfortunately, we've just had 2 retirements, Chris Robinson and Split 2 winner James Duckworth. That is a real shame.
It's a shame for both of them, but that is it for them then in terms of this event. An incident further down in the pack, but we stay green here at Road America. Lap 11 we'll be going on to of 39. Already 1/4 distance score complete. This race probably going to take only all of 90 minutes and less at this stage, but look at Ethan Grigalt. He has closed that gap. It was over a second the last time they crossed the line, and Grigalt clearly has pace on Jared Filsell. That gap now stands at just 0.6 of a second. That's a 2:08.5 that time from Ethan Grigalt, and that one has closed that gap down to Filsell, who was a good 0.4 slower.
Yeah, absolutely. But we got to remember, Filsell may be slower at this stage, but he's still doing everything he needs to do to win the title. Remember, Filsell wins under the condition that as long as he finishes 19th or better, he wins. So Filsell, all he needs to do is keep himself out of trouble, finish as high as he can. That's all he needs to do right now.
But he is the trouble, Ethan Grigalt. Daniel Williams under pressure, side by side with the Zuva car of the 209, Brett Loxton, who managed to get down the inside at 1, but they keep on fighting now to 5. Last of the late breakers, who is it? It's Daniel Williams who's done the best, and there's tried to be an up and under. There's contact between the pair, but all of a sudden it is Daniel Williams who keeps hold of things. But now that pack has gone away from Luke Harvey, and that's going to be telling. But it has meant that a certain Sam Blacklock, I do believe, has come down in and made a pit stop.
Yeah, it definitely seems that way, eh? We look at the pit lane here at the moment. There's a couple of drivers stopped there. I think I can see Kessie among them, but Daniel Williams and Brett Loxton still making their way through the carousel here, and it's at this stage in the race you will be looking to make that first pit stop. Meanwhile,
let's look at Grigalt, because he is closing on Jared Filsell, but I think that Brenton O'Brien's having a look at things. I've got him in my ear as well as my producer in the other ear, so I need about 18 different ears right now to hear about what's going on. But they are thinking at Evolution Racing Team that Jared's going to try and back it up into Madison Down, and I simply say horse, because what Jared needs is as little vehicles as possible battling with him for this one. He does not need Grid Gold fighting with Madison Down. He does not need Madison Down in that fight at all. He just needs to pull his lap times in. All of a sudden, the gap comes down from 0.6 of a second to 3, and Grid Gold can start thinking about attacking this lap.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I think you know, Jared... Oh, wow, Daniel Williams. That's a bit of an adventurous pit entry there. Well, we go to a quick replay of that one on board with Daniel Williams there. Goodness me, that was very close to disaster for him.
Well, the tail kicked out and all. He was trying to slow it down from that sort of speed, but he's done very well to get that one slowed up. So Daniel Williams decides to make the stop then at the end of lap 11. Grid Gold not close enough to Phil Cell to go and make that move. Phil Cell uses all of the track through the left-hander and now trying to bring the train back together with Sam Sutton on the rear of it. Marlon McMullen, Josh Muggleton, Nick Cummings. This 3-car train that we're looking at is currently 10th, 11th and 12th on the road, and they're all locking up, and that's wide from Muggleton. Here's Nick Cummings thinking about the inside. Oh, he gave him a little shot to the back bumper there as they head through turn 6. So Nick Cummings thinking that he's quicker, but decides to back out of it, maybe a little bit slower to the touch, with Ian Ford now joining the train.
Yes, indeed. Proper 4-car battle going on right now between these guys. And Cummings, I think, just getting a better exit out of turn 5. Wasn't quite anticipating the speed differential between himself and Muggleton in that section of the circuit. And that's a difficult thing to do. You know, you've got a car right in front of you. The entry to the next corner is blind. And it's a difficult corner to get right anyway. So I don't blame Cummings for making that kind of mistake, but still, it's getting a bit leery there.
It is getting a bit leery. None of your top 7 have decided to come down in and make a stop as of yet. Who will be the first to blink from the train?
Oh, look out!
By 3.5 seconds. Uh-oh, Josh Muggleton has got himself a bit of a moment. He goes a bit deep. Not a bit deep, a lot deep, as he locks up the rear, goes spread eagle sideways, and manages to slow it up before he hits any gravel at all. Good work from Muggleton there, but now you're starting to think who comes in. Luke Harvey decides he wants to make a stop and come down onto the lane. This race is suddenly becoming old tyres are dangerous.
Yeah, certainly, and Muggo definitely saw the light there and went straight into the pits behind Nick Cummings. Absolutely nailed the entry, closed up a huge amount on Cummings as well. So Josh Muggleton trying to make the best of a non-optimal situation for him at the moment. Meanwhile, back out on the track, we focus once again on Jake Burton and Madison Down, and just ahead of them...
Oh, Madison!
Oh, yeah. Goodness.
Oh, he ran wide.
An uncharacteristic mistake.
Oh, and there was something very telling. No move from Jake Burton. He had the pace to go and make it, but he backed out of it. He is acting as Madison's friend at this stage of the event. He knows what he needs to do, but now you have to wonder here. Madison Down is starting to worry about this one, because look at the tyres. He made a mistake at 5, a big slide there heading just before the carousel. Madison Down's tyres are shot, in my opinion. I think he's coming down this lap.
Yeah, meanwhile, James Scott around out of turn 5. We're just going to do a quick replay of that coming down the back stretch towards turn 5, but keep us updated on what's happening up the front, Sperry. While we do that, it looks to me like it was just a pretty basic... oh, yeah, it was contact. Oh, goodness me. Right in the back by Taliancic. An attempted send that ultimately went awry. Ouch.
Yes, it went completely wrong, and that's not helpful at all. And Burton looks so much quicker at the moment than Madison Down. It is frightening how much they are holding themselves up as we are back live. It's Grid Gold and Phil Cell, 1 and 2, who have pulled away from Madison Down and Jake Burton. And I feel now's the time. In comes your leading 2. Outstays Madison Down. That's a bold call. Ooh. After this, everybody else has dived onto the lane at exactly the same time. 6 of your 7 come in. Madison Down is playing the chicken. He will stay out the longest, and he was the one who I was worried about the most.
Yeah, you can't hear me stroking my beard right now in deep thought, but I genuinely question why Downs stayed out there. I think it was very sensible for Burton to do it. He obviously felt like he was being held up there, but for Down to stay out on those tyres that we obviously saw were less than optimal, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, we will see if this gamble pays off for the 77 or if he drops positions. So Jared Filsell and Ethan Grigott were equal into their own respective boxes. Who will move first from the front six out of their box? At the moment, they are taking their service and hoping that they can get out. Best positioned out of their box is Jake Burton, who's got this worked. Look at Grigott, though. Fantastic on the stop. And he leapfrogs Jared Filsell into the net race lead. And just like that, Filsell has been absolutely bamboozled by Grigott, who is perfect on the stop. But Grigott now fighting it back. Heavy defensive line towards turn number 3. And all of a sudden, this plays into the Madison Downs strategy card absolutely perfectly.
Brilliant stop there from Ethan Grigott. That was fantastically executed, but Jared Filsell is wanting the lead of this race back. You can see Grigott going defensive, but Filsell had the better run down the straight by far. He's not trying to go for it around the outside, though. Might try an over-under here. Oh, just bouncing off the curb there. Lifted up the inside front wheel. Not optimal there, but I'll tell you what this is doing. It's bringing Burton right into it.
And now this is the next worry, because the worry is Jared Filsell is now in the pack, which is going to be dangerous for him if drivers start making moves. Look at where Sam Blacklock's come out in all of this. The undercut has heavily helped because he's with Sam Sutton all of a sudden and has now managed to gain his own positions as Brad Ryan is in the midst of all of this right now. Again, Filsell trying to pick the run as Madison Down does decide to come down onto the lane. But guess what? It's Jake Maloney who's jumped the lot in the stops.
What? That's amazing. That's absolutely crazy. An 8 second shorter stop for Maloney, though, so maybe he's banking on a caution.
I think he is banking on a caution, and I think he's going to go for a long stop finish, and he's hoping that it comes out. Where will Madison Down come out in all of this melee? Because all of a sudden, Filsell and Grigott, they will be trying to chase down Jake Maloney, who's a few seconds down the road. This is not what's wanted. We're going to get a replay. That may have been contact on pit entry for Madison Down. This is what you'll see on screen. And no, I think he's done okay. Maybe Grigott, though, we need to keep an eye on, because here's Jared Filsell looking back down to the inside to get to safety of the race lead. Madison Down is being left in the dust, but there's Filsell down the inside, and he gets back into the race lead. But look at the over-under attempt trying from Grigott. He can't quite get there. Madison Down comes out behind Sam Blacklock. Oh. And look at this, Grigott comes back down the inside at turn 3.
Jesus! And while we saw on that replay, yeah, Grigott unfortunately getting into the back of Filsell, that is where his damage on the front right has come from. He is right in the thick of it now. Jake Burton could go for the lead here. This is getting very spicy up the front, or up the effective front, I should probably say. Grigott and Burton almost making contact, just enough room between those two. Richard Hampstead still right in the mix as well. Jared Filsell holding his own there. Grigott running just a little bit wide though.
And all of a sudden, Jake Burton becomes Jared Filsell's best friend in this situation. Keep attacking. He will say, I need Grigott out of a second so that I can go and attack Jake Maloney on my merry lonesome. At the moment, he can't do that because he's got to take the train all along with him. Madison Down, a huge loser by staying out. You can see just how much the difference in the tyres was. I was looking at probably about 1.8, maybe even 2 seconds a lap. The difference, as now Jake Maloney has used that to his advantage, procured the race lead, sorry, I should say. But all of a sudden now, this race is starting to get dicey, and Filsell wants to be at the front quickly, because the front, as we know, is the quickest place possible. Brett Loxton currently has stayed out along with Ian Ford. Ross Rizzo is in on the lane, comes Brady Myers to serve his stop 3, yet to come down.
Yeah, and just news from race control, Michael Taliancic has been given a penalty for the contact that we saw earlier with James Scott. So a bit of an update on that. But as our former race leaders come by the pits, Tell you what, this is where things are going to get interesting. Thomas Hinz out of the race. He has retired. Big shame for Hinzy. Through very little fault of his own there. But the battle for the effective top 4 right now, this is where it's at.
It is where it's at, and Ethan Griggolt is trying to line up a move on that Trans-Tasman white and black car with the Momo red Trans-Tasman behind. It's a sandwich of sorts with Richard Hamstead's TTL Esports car just in the distance. Can now Griggolt make the move? He looks to the inside to make this one happen, and I think Philcell's going to have to let this one go, and they're going to try the outside line. No room given. And no, Jared, do not push it that much. Position Griggolt at this stage. It changes again. They are equal. They are yin and yang.
They certainly are, wow. And you could tell Philcell did not want to let that one go. He was running right to the exit there, trying to stay alongside Griggolt, but you could tell the Eggman was having absolutely none of it. He is in the lead now, but you can bet Philcell is going to try and get him back.
Call him Dr. Robotnik, he was that good. And now you start thinking about things for Jared Philcell. He doesn't want to be in the pack. The good news is Burton is helping him behind. This is what the front of the field has been. Trans-Tasman's so good, they know that Jared wants the title, and they will work towards that fact. And that's the worry that Griggolt has. If there is to be an incident with a certain Jared Philcell, it very well may need to be himself who has it.
Meanwhile, Maloney fuel saving an incredible amount. So 6 seconds in 2 laps, we're hearing from our director, is the time that he has given up. Maloney obviously taking the bet on the safety car, and he might have lost it.
I think he very well might have lost it. We have not seen a safety car so far in this event. Brett Loxton is in, along with Ian Ford, along with Ross Rizzo. They could only go 17 laps on a stint. That suggests it's a 2-stop race with 5 laps to go. That's maybe what Maloney's trying to do, trying to save himself the 5 laps of fuel that gets him over to the end. And that is a hard challenge in 39 laps worth of racing. And I think that he's looking for maybe a miracle. And you can see how slow this train's actually going, because Sam Sutton is now on the rear of this one, and Madison Down will soon chase onto it. They're doing low 208, low to mid 208s. It's 207s from Sam Sutton. He's the quickest of the lot, and Maloney doing high 208s in his own right. I think Maloney's actually not being closed in as much as maybe people thought he was being.
We'll see. We'll see in the next couple of laps, because these guys in this lead battle pack for the effective lead. Meanwhile, as there's contact between Luke Harvey and Daniel Williams in turn 5, they are giving no quarter to each other either. Forzan El Nabi is still in the mix with them. How much has that man seen in this race? More than many.
More than many, indeed. He's certainly seen a lot of battling, but he still finds himself in the 11th position in this event. Brett Loxton has come out behind Nick Cummings and Andrew Gilliam and Josh Muggleton. That will put him around that magic 19th spot, which Jared Philcell needs to keep ahead of at this stage. And I wonder here how much Jared Philcell wants to battle in this one. The answer will be not much at all, but it now relies on maybe Jake Maloney, because if he's fuel saving and he's a little bit slower than the other vehicles, that could be something that Philcell does not want to battle with. He has got to take everything with his vehicle like he's the only piece of china in a Spanish bull shop.
Righto, China in a bull shop. Never heard that one before. As we look once again at El Nabi and Williams, and Forzan is looking very, very racy here at the moment. Tell you what, that draft, it's worth a lot, especially up the hill coming down that front stretch. El Nabi with a little bit of a run, but he's not going too aggressive. He is having a look, actually. Yeah, speak of the devil, my goodness. Oh, hang on a minute. They lock wheels there for a second. Thanks, Forzan. I think Forzan commentators cursed me.
Yeah, that's a redress there from Forzan El Nabi. Got the tail out and just ran into the side of Daniel Williams. He redresses the position to make sure that happens, and he doesn't cop a penalty, but that wasn't ideal from Forzan. A little bit too aggressive. Look at Phil Sell now, all over the rear of Grid Gold once again, but not in a position at 6 to go out there and make the move. They are both catching Jake Maloney, though, who did a 2:09 flat. That was a second, that last lap, that Grid Gold was able to claw back in. The gap was 1.2, and all of a sudden Maloney's stint as the race leader is about to be cut very quickly short here in this one. I've just caught an eye just behind because Luke Harvey's had his own little issue out on track, and that one, I believe, was him serving a slowdown penalty there, Reese.
Must have been. Yeah. Righto. So we're seeing that this is the trouble. We don't really know for sure in cases like this, do we?
No, we don't, and our job as commentators is to know exactly what's going on, and quite frankly, we don't. But here's Ethan Grigalt, though. He's within 1 second, and now Maloney's got to be thinking, I'm mincemeat here, because it's not just one vehicle, it's not just 2, it is 5 that's there, and Madison down very soon, looking to try and make it 6 when it comes to this train behind Jake Maloney. That gap is not 1.2 anymore. It looks around half a second, and surely Ethan Grigalt needs to get by quickly and run away.
Yeah, he absolutely does, because you can tell with the lap times that Jake Maloney's doing, if Grigalt can't get past him, he will just be held up. Jared Filsell is just going to get right in there with him. So Grigalt, there's not much he can do in this case to try and fight for the championship, other than just making sure that he is in the lead. Remember, Ethan Grigalt's potential championship depends on Jared finishing 29th or lower and Madison finishing 8th or lower. So with Phil Sell in the position he's in now, Grigalt doesn't have much of a chance. Little bit of contact once again between Forzan and Williams. Yep, Grigalt down the inside of Jake Maloney. Maloney's trying to hold on to him, though.
He's fighting back, and now Phil Sell will start thinking about the inside as well. Try and sneak one down in, and he's going to get himself there. Is there contact? There is between them, but Maloney's fighting this one back and is giving a bit of help here to Ethan Grigalt. Slide from Phil Sell, who will now try and get the inside at the next corner. It won't be defended here by Maloney, and Maloney's got nothing left to give on the old tyres, and just like that, Phil Sell gets through at the cost of about 0.7 of a second.
Yeah, well, that may very well be what Ethan Grigalt needs at this stage. We've still got one more pit stop to go, so if they end up finishing this lap in the current positions, Burton will no longer be in the championship hunt. Remember, we are at the halfway point of the race, and of course, you consider points at half race distance as well.
You certainly do consider points at half race distance, and there's not much Jake Burton can do about it. It's going to probably be that for his championship hopes, but now he will turn from an offender to a defender for Jared Filsell, who has all 4 wheels lock up into the final corner. He is torturing those tyres more than anybody else I've seen for the longest time. Ethan Grigalt then inherits the race lead of this one, but my goodness, at every point there is a train and a battle. Brett Loxton, for example, the battle for 15th with Nick Cummings here in this one, and for the moment Cummings under pressure because look how close Loxton is. This one surely has got to be basic. Up the hill pulls to the right hand side, but they will bottom out equal, and this is not forthcoming for Brett Loxton to make this move guaranteed.
No, certainly not. He'll have to get on the brakes just an instant later than Cummings, and he definitely does. Will he have overshot, though? No, actually. Makes the line nice and tight, nice and tidy as well. So, Cummings, if anything, yielding.
Yeah, here's Jake Burton, though, trying to get past Jake Maloney, and he's going to get no help of that one as things look. So, he tried, but not quite enough to go and make that move up the hill into the left-hander of 6. Still nothing that's there, and at the moment, it's still nothing for Jake Burton. At the moment, it's probably good enough to say Jake Maloney's in this race now.
Yeah, definitely seems that way. Now that he's got the draft of the cars just in front of him, he's somewhat able to save a bit more fuel than he was before while maintaining a bit more pace. So we could see him factor in this later stage if he pulls off that second stop.
Don't count your chickens, though, because Burton's going to be looking for a move at Canada Corner through the kink. You don't go too wide at the kink. Now Canada Corner will be the next port of call, and using all of the draft, trying to angle to the inside and just about sneaks a nose in. So now you've got to be careful if you're Maloney on the outside. There's Jake Burton. The Scarlet Pimpernel fights, but Maloney fights back on the outside. Good defending on that outside tack. Through Bill Mitchell Bend they go, and this is only holding up everybody else here. Burton tries to the outside now at the final corner to try and make that move, and again he gets hung out to dry, and Hampstead now trying to go through, and look at TTL Swarm.
Yeah, certainly. I think this is very much a ploy by Jake Maloney to help his two teammates behind Jake Burton, possibly get Burton in a position where he can be passed by these two. Phil Sell, though, up the front as Burton goes for the move on Maloney. Phil Sell is right on the back of Ethan Grigg-Gault. Burton at the front of the train, though.
Yeah, Burton's managed to make his way through, as has Richard Hampstead. Maloney almost got a tap from Sam Sutton behind as well, so had to be careful. Madison Down is in 7th position, and where we heard that one all too many times before at this certain circuit. This time, though, the championship in the hands of the number 1 in 2nd position at the moment, and will probably, if he was a wise man, just sit behind and wait. We are over half distance here at Road America on the iRacing Esports Network, brought to you by SimSpeed TV, and Ethan Grigg-Gault is trying to do everything in his powers to get himself a victory. At the moment, nothing is giving him it. Madison Down needs to start making moves, and at the moment he's got the unstoppable tide of TTL to make his way through. 3 of them, it's a swarm.
It certainly is. It's a trifecta of black and orange machines that Down has to make his way through. It's a club sandwich, a Dagwood sandwich of massive TTL filling and TTR bread. So Jake Burton starting to break away slightly from Richard Hampstead. I have made our director hungry, apparently. Madison Down right on the back here of Jake Maloney coming through the kink and nearly lost it.
He's got to be careful. If he throws it away now, he will have no shot at a title, and he may even throw away 2nd and 3rd in the championship as well, after being so good. Driver with the 2nd most amount of wins this season, with at least 3 to his name. So now for Madison Down, he's been the cleanest driver. He's now got to prove that he can overtake cleanly and prove why he has been so influential to this championship this year, as he now tries to charge up the hill towards the start-finish line once again. Phil Sell within a 10th, just about 2 tenths exactly. I'm sure that he'll just sit and wait and decide not to make the move. Answer is he doesn't make the move. Here comes Madison Down, not close enough yet.
No, certainly not. Down still having trouble there with Maloney, but I think at turn 5 he's going to have a good chance there. But I tell you what, this battle up the front between Grigg-Gault and Phil Sell, I think this race from Grigg-Gault is a statement to his championship competitors. You know, I can still compete up the front. I could be in contention for this championship. Problem is, Grigg-Gault's season as a whole has not been reflective of what this race has shown.
No, it hasn't been, and what's telling is that Ethan Grigg-Gault's last 2 rounds have just not been what has been wanted, and that much certainly has just an eye out on at the moment. But what has to be said is that Ethan Grigg-Gault has been consummate professional throughout. He's been trying everything to get this one to work in his favour, and for the time being at least, he's got the lead of this one. There's not much more that he can do unless he needs to start backing up Phil Sell back into the TTL train. That's the only thing he can do.
Yeah, it certainly is, but it carries a great deal of risk to him as well, doesn't it?
Well, it does, but what choice does he have? Phil Sell needs 28th at this situation, and you got Madison Down there in 7th. You got 2 vehicles you got to dispatch of. Right now, he's doing all that he can, and it's not enough.
No, it certainly isn't. And I mean, like, the problem is, backing him into that TTL train would be a very much last-ditch effort for Ethan that could go very, very wrong. I think maybe in his mind, the best sort of solution to this dilemma right now is just to stay out in front, take the win, get the points, and hope that Madison somehow falls into strife and he can grab second.
Yes, but Jared Filsell is the big difference maker here in this one, and he's doing all that he needs to for his championship picture. Everything that he wants is on a plate, but as we know in racing, it's not as forthcoming. Ross Rizzo, though, he's in his own little scrap. This one is for 17th position. He's got Brady Myers just in front, and what did we say about Ross Rizzo gaining positions? He's up 6 so far in this event.
Yeah, he definitely is, and he is right on the back of Myers here as well. Rizzo, once again, showing that he has what it takes to compete at a high level in this field, and have a look at the run that he's got down the front straight. He's just lifting and coasting slightly. That's really going to help him when the second pit stop time comes around, which should be very, very soon.
I tell you what, there is a reason why Grid Golt's not backing the field up, and that is Madison down. His stop was 2.3 seconds longer, Reese, on the first stop, and that's the big worry because Madison is going to be shorter on his next stop.
Yeah, that's it. So Madison, he's going to get a massive advantage at this next stop, and Grid Golt definitely will be wary of that. The guys at Evolution Racing Team will be wary of it. It's just counting their cards, making sure that they can finish as high as possible. Williams currently defending here from Loxton.
Yeah, Loxton now gets a good run off of the exit here, but you can't really use that into the carousel. That's the issue with that corner. And actually the issue with Road America as a track, it doesn't actually have a hairpin. You can go out there and really send one down the inside, but still a good run out that can be used for Brett Loxton. Looking to that next right-hander. Oh, the king gets a little bit sideways. Hold it together. I think that's the 5th time this race that we've seen someone have a massive moment there and gather it up together again like a bundle of wool.
Oy, oy, oy. Brett Loxton, very, very lucky to get away with that. But it just goes to show like how hard these drivers are pushing. They are using every little bit of tarmac and curb that they can find. And of course, sometimes it's difficult to judge exactly where that car's going to be. Muggo, a bit of oversteer on the exit, and Loxton going straight for his second pit stop.
We've got Luke Harvey, he's also come in. He was the first to come in and make the stop, followed swiftly by Brett Loxton. So the second round of stops underway. The window is open. When do you decide is the next question that so many are now going to have to ask. Grid Golt has to stay out because of Madison down, and we know that Philson can just save fuel behind and get to his number a little bit easier. TTL aren't doing enough at this stage, nor is Burton, to help out this one in the long term. This is the worst game that Grid Golt, I think, could ever play in this race here, Reese, because he's doing everything he can, and he is checked in 5 different ways, and it's still not quite checkmate.
Yeah, certainly. It's, goodness, what kind of thoughts must be going through Ethan Grid Golt's head right now? He is at the very limit right now of what he can do, short of backing Phil Sell into that train. So,
oh no! And there's a turnaround. Nick Cummings and Andrew Gilliam. Gilliam 360s like Pazzini and gets himself going again, but that was cheeky from Nick Cummings. Replay on screen. It was through turn 7, heading to the hurry downs. There was always a nose on the inside there from Nick Cummings. I have to say a little bit with the nature of the corner, I'm not sure enough room was given there by Andrew Gilliam in that scenario.
Yeah, well, Cummings was taking a very narrow line into that turn, and you really need to get the turn-in point exactly right there. So, Cummings, I don't know, it seems like a bit 50-50 from my perspective, but I guess we'll let the stewards decide that.
We certainly will. It's Sutton, though, who decides to blink from the leaders first. So in he comes, along with Maloney, who should have a longer pit stop due to the short nature of his opening stop. So that's going to be very, very interesting to keep an eye out on. Sam Sutton is in the box as things stand. So We'll keep an eye on this one as they continue. Ethan Griggolt leads, Phil Sell in second. Now you wonder about the tyre call from Sam Sutton, because this will force everybody now to dive on the lane because of the tyres, which will be a lot quicker than the 208s that we've been seeing. Phil Sell now thinks about going down to the inside, and he does so here on Ethan Griggolt. He wants to be front of the train for the stop, and he stops it perfectly. Phil Sell back to the race lead.
Opportunistic. Very good job there from Phil Sell. Griggolt giving him a hard time, though, as he is perfectly entitled and wants to do. But we'll see how this pit stop works out for these guys up the front. It is optimal for Phil Sell to be at the front of this train here. He stands the least chance, therefore, of getting pipped by Sutton. So, coming through the carousel for the 25th time, you see Griggolt, he's not quite as close to Phil Sell as I would have expected him to be after a few corners.
Well, there is a little bit of a dirty air effect as well, which does play a little bit of a part as Phil Sell pushes wide. And I think that's just proof of how much Jared Phil Sell is pushing here in this season finale race. He wants everything to be in his hands, and so that he can get himself the victory that he wants. At the moment, Ethan Griggolt is currently trying everything to stay with him, and I reckon this is indicative of Phil Sell trying to get on the lane this time by. We see if he will at this stage. Round the final corner he goes. Does he decide now's the time to get on the lane? He does decide, and Griggolt once again decides it's time to follow. Hampstead stays out with Madison down.
Yeah, so Madison going long once again here, but he will get the advantage of a shorter stop at the end of it. So, our effective top three there, Phil Sell, Griggolt, and Burton, occupying the same little bit of road down the pit lane. Who is going to come out in front? I think Griggolt, he played the fuel-saving game well enough, but
Burton's missed his box.
He did. Just a little bit of a sort of a half spin almost getting into the box. So that's going to hurt him.
It will hurt him, and crucially, Griggolt was in his box stopped before Jared Phil Sell was. So I think Griggolt has been perfect on the brake stopping, but look at that, straight away, Jared Phil Sell saves the fuel and gets out. Gamble time for Jared Phil Sell, and if he saved that fuel perfectly behind Ethan Griggolt, he'll be gone and away with the fairies. Look at Griggolt now. There's Sam Sutton, who's got the undercut on him fantastically around the outside.
Oh, a little bit sideways as well, too. Always helps the entertainment value there, but Ethan Griggolt, this has not worked out well for him. He would have had to take that longer pit stop, thanks to all the fuel he saved in the opening stint. But, well...
Oh, there's contact! Oh my goodness, that's Brett Loxton and Sam Blacklock. Blacklock goes straight on and goes into a spin. Loxton spins it up as well. That one was looking dangerous. No contact with any barrier at all. That could have ended in absolute disaster. Replay on screen, and Sam Blacklock is the lucky man to still have a car.
Yeah, he was exiting the pits, and Loxton just coming out behind him. Loxton got a good exit there as Blacklock was still getting used to the car, but they went side by side, and Loxton just went into Blacklock coming through turn 3. That's a shame to see there, but fortunately, both of them have managed to keep it going.
Your leading two stay out, Richard Hampstead and Madison down. They decide that they can go longer on this one and keep themselves racing. Andrew Gilliam, Ross Rizzo still out, Brady Myers, Ian Ford, and then it's Jared Phil Sell, and that's telling. Next up's Ian Ford on the road. This is where you say, as maybe Brenton O'Brien, keep Ian Ford out there, be a nuisance as much as you can to Jared Phil Sell.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Being a nuisance, creating a distraction, possibly Phil Sell getting involved in an incident of his own doing somewhere down the line. That could be the lifeline that Griggolt needs to take the championship. We know Madison is out of it at the moment. At least it seems that way. Things can still change in these last few stints. Griggolt, though, going for the move here on Sam Sutton down the front straight. Will he be able to get it done? We know that Sutton's a very aggressive racer. He's staying even with Griggolt there, but Greg Galt ahead at the apex, and that's going to be move done there.
Yes, but it could come back at turn 5, so stay with this. Sam Sutton now needs to just pick up a good run, and he could come straight back at Greg Galt. And Sam Sutton's been proving that he is here for a reason. That is, he is an incredibly quick supercar driver, and he is proving that. Tucked up in the toe, and now is going to be looking to the outside to make the move. No, he has to back out of it because there wasn't enough of a gap there. So Sam Sutton decides that Greg Galt, you can have the lap at least for the moment, but that gap is, looking at this one, 3 seconds to Jared Filsell, and that's not helpful in the slightest right now with just 13 laps to go here at the Circuit of Road America. Down has caught Richard Hampstead.
He certainly has. So Hampstead coming now into the final turn. Will the 28 and the 77 take this opportunity to go into the pits? Hampstead in, Down stays out.
Down again decides that he wants to play the long game, and that long game is very, very telling. So Richard Hampstead is deciding now's the time he needs to come in. Where is Filsell in all of this? The answer is heading his way towards Canada Corner as we look at it. So Filsell now, he is going to be through and gain nearly 3 seconds on Ian Ford over the course of this lap, and that's very telling. Hampstead then looks to hit his box, and it will be the 5th one from the end, and he hits it perfectly, goes up and down on the jacks, and looks to get himself back out and going once again. Also down in on the lane is Brady Myers. Here will come Filsell, along with Ian Ford, who is uber fuel saving at this point in time to go as long as he possibly can. And now, where does Hampstead come out in all of this? He releases from his box now. Through will go Filsell. Through will go Greg Galt just. And that's going to be telling because Madison's back in this one for a podium.
Exactly right. This could potentially be a podium for Madison Down. Oh, I love the way that this race just ebbs and flows like every race does. Jared Filsell's pace as well, something to behold as Ian Ford lifting off on the straight. He's letting him go.
He's letting him go, so there will be no harassment then. And ERT tactics in this one. This will have to be done by Ethan Greg Galt all on his own, or maybe a mistake for Jared Filsell. He got the pit stop early though, out of the way. So if a caution comes out here, Reese, the worst he can do is lead by nothing.
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly it. I mean, man. There's so much going on right now, but the one thing that we can be sure of is that Jared Filsell remains in the box seat to win the championship. Madison Down is trying absolutely everything he can as we see him now go for the pits here. So this is what could potentially decide how the final stint plays out. Madison right in there, heavy on the brakes. Let's see how his stop goes.
We'll see, indeed. The number 77 looks for his box, which will be the 3rd to last one on pit road. An hour, a minute, and 16 seconds have gone by with Madison Down at the front of the train. And there's only 2 drivers that have yet to come down. One, Brady. Well, Brady has come down in. Ross Rizzo will follow on lap 28 then of this event. Here comes Jared Filsell out to the final corner. This should be elementary, my dear Watson, as he should regain the race lead here in this one. Down, though, will be shorter on his stop, so we'll see where he comes out in comparison. He will look to try and get off and away, and you can see Filsell's gone. You can see Ian Ford is gone. Greg Galt is gone. Sutton, Hampstead, gone. Burton, gone. Down, championship, gone.
Yep, exactly right. And, you know, I gotta say, if Down had decided to take his first pit stop a lap or so earlier than he did, he might well still be in the running, but especially with the way he handled that second stint and drew it out for as long as he did, unfortunately, that has what sealed the deal for him.
It has sealed the deal, and it's sealed a big deal as Hampstead tries to think about coming back at teammate Sutton. Down the inside, Leighton, he gets the move, and that was a little bit coordinated there from Sutton, who gave a lot of room there and lost a lot of pace to allow Hampstead to go through. So that's going to be very telling. Ian Ford now, there should be no difficulties with this move and the long fuel save, because this should allow Ethan Griggolt the chance to dive on through and gain that position. So for Griggolt, this should be an easy one, and you can see how easy this is because you can see Ian Ford struggling to put the power down, and straight by goes the ERT machine.
Yes, indeed. So right now, Ian Ford's position is going to shift in the grand scheme of things. He'll become a bit of a rear gunner now, I think, to Ethan Griggolt, because you can see Hampstead still very much advancing on that position. If Ian Ford can just keep Hampstead behind as long as he can, that will be a few more points secured for Ethan.
It will be a few more points secured, but right now, points are just the last thing he's thinking about because they are meaningless compared to Phil Sell, who's at the front of the field, but Griggolt is pushing. 0.3 of a second he's found. The only thing he can do now is catch Jared and try and apply the pressure. I think in the last 10 laps, which we are now heading into the countdown to the end of the season, the last 10 laps become the most vital and the most crucial of the championship so far. 2:08.4 from Jared Phil Sell. Ethan Griggolt, another 0.3, 2:08.1. The gap is 2.8 seconds, and this is enough for Griggolt to chase down that gap as Hampstead makes his way past Ian Ford. Now Sam Sutton thinks about a way past Ian Ford, and Ford at the moment seemingly getting bamboozled by the amount of vehicles going through. Can Sutton pick it up on the exit? There's contact between them, and both of them head themselves off into the fence. They both save it from hitting anything, and Ian Ford's lucky. Sam Sutton's even luckier.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, we're having a look here at what happened. So Sutton went alongside Ian Ford, but it seems like Sutton, I think, just went a little bit too far to the left on the exit. Ford was still very much there.
And every little move in that box to the left, and it seems that something has happened to one of the vehicles there, so that's not going to be helpful too, as that is the 088 machine.
Oh,
yeah, that's James Scott. Oh my,
ouch. So Greg Sharp, unfortunately, involved in that one. So Scott was already having some issues coming into the final turn. Big slide. Greg Sharp decided, I'll try and take advantage of that, but unfortunately, Scott, I think, well, fair play to Scott, tried to give him room, but Greg Sharp, unfortunately, just moving over a little bit too far.
Yeah, I have to agree on that one. Phil Sell, though, is currently trying to win this championship in style. Griggolt's doing everything he can, and he's trying to bring the train along with him. This promotes Madison Down up into 5th position at the moment, and he is slowly bringing himself back into relevancy here in position 5. At 7th, he was out of it. At 5th, he's still got half a shot at trying to pull himself in. Still got Brady Myers, though, who's been very quiet all race long. He's trying to battle it out with Daniel Williamson, as we got a drive-through penalty for Sam Sutton for the incident there with Ian Ford. And just like that, Sam Sutton will serve that one and will be no further a part of this championship battle.
No, certainly not. But I mean, fair play to Sutton. Up until that point, he was doing a very good job, I have to say, showing why he's had such a good career in sim racing in the past, before, of course, his service. But yeah, that's just a real shame, those two guys coming together on track. It's kind of spoiled what could have continued to be a really good battle in these last few laps.
Look at Madison Down, though, looking for 4th position potentially, and not going to make it on Jake Burton. Burton will know, I'm no factor in the championship anymore, but surely you've got to give Madison the space now to go out there and potentially take the championship.
Yeah, well, I don't know how much these guys will be talking to each other over team radio, so to speak, but I would definitely hazard a guess that Burton is aware of Madison still having half a chance. The question is, like, does Burton feel like he has the pace to stay ahead of Madison at this stage? Well, no. There you go. That's the answer right there. Burton going wide in the carousel. That was easy. That was
the Staples button. That was easy. And there, Madison Down gets up to 4th. and needs to chase Hampstead down for the podium and try and keep something with Greg Galt, who'd closed 0.4 of a second on Jared Filsell over that last lap and brought the gap down to 2.4 seconds. If that stays similar, that rate of knots, then Filsell with a couple of laps to go will be thinking about, do I even just let Ethan Greg Galt go through and have no battle? Because the last thing he wants is a battle with Dr. Robotnik himself, Ethan Greg Galt.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Filsell, I've been saying it basically from the start. All he needs to do is keep himself out of trouble, keep himself as clean as possible, and he will take this. If Ethan catches him at a quick enough rate, it will be in Filsell's best interest to just let him go, because the way things stand right now, there's no chance Ethan's going to take the championship.
2.1 seconds now, the gap at the front of the field. Your top 5 under 5 seconds at the moment, and Greg Galt is hand over fist closing another 0.2. And look at Jared Filsell's last lap time, a 2:08.659. He did get slightly quicker, but Greg Galt is still closing down the crucial gap that's needed to get a little bit further forward in this one. There goes Brady Myers down the inside of Daniel Williams, gives him a shove and gives a bit of help to Sam Sutton, who served his penalty, and all of a sudden Sutton's going to get 2 in 2 corners, because straight like that he's gotten dispatched. There was Brady Myers. Sam Sutton now moves himself up to 13th.
Yeah, I was teammates with Sam Sutton a couple of years back. I know that once he gets a determined way about him, there's not much you can do to stop him. Brady Myers having a bit of a go at the inside, but I think Sutton is definitely eyes forward at this point, trying to salvage a result from this one. His next target will be Ross Rizzo, but Myers and Williams coming together. That is not going to be optimal. That's going to be Williams back in front again. Maybe redressing. Not quite sure at this stage.
I don't think it's a redress, but there was certainly contact up. And I think Brady's going to come straight back at it. And, well, he's going to try and look to the inside. But Daniel Williams just able to carry the momentum in that battle and continue on his fight as they go for the carousel. Oh, a shot in the carousel there from Brady Myers. He is not happy with Daniel Williams one iota, and at this stage, little wiggle off the exit. He's thinking about a kick. Oh my goodness, there's contact. I thought that was a redress. And they're going to shove each other into the wall. They're both in the fence, and just like that, they're ruining each other's racing. This is stupid.
Wow, I mean, like, I don't know what Williams was doing there on the entrance to the kink. Maybe he was trying to do the redress there. I'm not quite sure. I question the validity of that decision. We are on a replay, though. Williams just... here we go. So, yeah, he lets off quite hard before the kink and then just makes a complete meal of it coming in. I'm not quite sure what either of those guys were doing.
Oh, I think they've both lost their heads at the moment, and Brady Myers will come down in and make a stop. He even had another swipe coming through Bill Mitchell Bend, and if that is the way that he's using his car, I expect a hefty ban to come along in the not-too-distant future for Brady Myers, and mark my words on it. Ethan Greg Galt, though, gap down 1.8 seconds now at the front of the field. Just 6 laps to go. 0.3 a lap he will close, but at 1 second in the draft, Jared Filsell becomes a sitting target in this one, and Ethan Greg Galt knows what he needs to do, and this is going to be a telling factor as well. 29 vehicles currently on the leading lap. Ian Ford, though, on pit road as well. So right now, it stands to a matter of fact that Jared Filsell is safe, but if anything happens to him in the final lap, he could still lose all the positions and lose the championship.
This is exactly right. I will repeat it again. It is in Filsell's best interest to stay as far away from other cars as he possibly can. He needs to just keep the laps going, needs to keep the momentum going. If Ethan passes him, fine, no biggie, he's still got it.
He's still got it indeed, but Grig Galt, though, is trying everything to pull back in Phil Sell. Has he used too much of the tyres as well over the course? He needs 0.3 of a second over the course of this lap, and does he have that as he looks to cross the start-finish line? It's now 6 laps to go, and the answer from 1.8 now decides to become 1.7. So Phil Sell's responding to the times, keeping him just at arm's length. That was a 10th only over that lap, and Grig Galt now is starting to get desperate here, and Phil Sell is starting to wake up to the fact that this race is not safe. Drive-through penalty comes in for Daniel Williams, and I am not surprised at that either. I think the pair of them both deserve one each.
Yeah, well, it was kind of a mess, that situation between Williams and Myers. None of what happened between them needed to happen. So I don't know. We'll see what race control think of the role Brady Myers played in that, if any. But yeah, that's just a shame to see that.
It is a shame, but it is one which sometimes, you know, a cooler head, neither of them really had in that situation. We were talking about Ross Rizzo. He's now in 11th position right now and is looking on the cusp of a top 10. Brett Loxton 2 seconds down the road. Marlon McMullen having his own great race, 20th up to 9th, trying to find a way past Luke Harvey for 8th place.
Yeah, well, if you want to talk about cool heads in this one, McMullen and Rizzo are sub-zero right now, aren't they?
Oh, they are sub-zero, and they're just buying their time in the late stages, trying to find some moves, and they've just been silent assassins in the ways that they have been just clawing their way up through. And we've got Madison down, closing really electrically onto Richard Hampstead. Remember, he's got the freshest tyres out of everyone. He's doing 208 flats in this one, and I think Madison could take the whole lot here if he's not too careful, but not if he goes wide like that and drops himself half a second.
Oh, that was painful to watch. It's an easy thing to do at Canada Corner. It's a very misleading turn coming off the back straight. It's a bit faster than it looks, but that exit is really easy to get wrong. It's a bit narrower than you think it is, and that curb, the way that it just comes in and tightens, it can really catch you out. Unfortunately, Madison not nailing his brakes like he usually does.
No, he didn't. The gap down 1.4. Now the gap. Jared Philsell has just done himself. Look at this for consistency. 5 208.6s in a row, and it's not enough for Ethan Grig Galt because he's seeing that gap clawed down. 5 to go here at Road America, and Philsell being caught is the last thing that he wants. Madison's catching the lot. Everyone wants to get themselves in a situation where it's getting back into crunch time, and at the moment you feel that Philsell is hanging on for dear life now, because if there's any battling, that's it, championship over. Philsell could just lose the lead of this one and not have it, and I think there's fuel saving, so worries over Philsell actually making it to the end, because we saw how quick he was when he was on his second stop.
Yeah, that's very true. It was almost abnormal seeing how well Philsell did on the second stop. Ethan Grig Galt, meanwhile, Hampstead is a lot closer to him than I remember. There's something happened in those last couple of laps, or a couple of corners rather.
Well, it seems that Richard Hampstead has been doing well to close that gap down, and actually he was just really deep on the brakes into the hurry down section. So I think that Richard Hampstead is just lighting up a little bit, has been quiet behind Grig Galt. Maybe he's hit his number and decided, you know what? I could get in on this action if I wanted to. I could bring myself into play if I'm really careful about this. So here's the worry here for Grig Galt. Hampstead is out there just for a win.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And we talked about this in the Flat Chat podcast a few days ago, Sperry. I know from seeing Richard race in the past, this is the Richard Hampstead that I know. This is the kind of Richard Hampstead that we need to see more of, frankly.
I certainly wholeheartedly agree. Philsell crosses the line. His time, 208.600. Grig Galt, half a tenth only, now with 4 laps to go. That is another 208.6 from Philsell. Blistering consistency I have not seen since the likes of Mitchell de Jong at Spa-Francorchamps in the Showdown Classic. in the VRS GT World Championship. That's how good it's been. And Madison Down and also a certain Richard Hampstead are quicker than Greg Galt and Phil Sell combined. They are closing all in on each other at this stage. And now the top 5 are split by just 3.6 with 4 laps to go.
4 laps, 8 minutes, and I would say 8 minutes and 40 seconds thereabouts we got left to go in this one. It all comes down to this, really. It's been a year-long championship. We've had thousands upon thousands of racing kilometers covered by these drivers, and once again, it all comes down to Jared Philsell. Can he keep that thing going? Can he take this win and seal the deal nice and flawlessly? Or will he have to save fuel, drop behind, and take the title with perhaps a podium or even a top 5 to his name? Can Ethan Greg Galt just eke something else out of his car in these final few laps to try and take the win that he has been threatening to do all race from the moment he set those first laps in qualifying?
Well, Ethan Greg Galt knows that he was just 11 thousandths off of where he needed to be in qualifying. He proved he had the pace against Phil Sell. Now you've got to go out there and prove you have the pace against Phil Sell. Even if it's not a championship at this point, it is still, I took you to the final race and I took you to the limit. And that's what Greg Galt is trying to prove to stop the 14th win of the season for Jared Phil Sell, and arguably the greatest Australian supercar driver of the modern era here on iRacing. Gap changes once more. It's gone up. So Greg Galt's run out of tyre life. Phil Sell does a 2:08.4 and starts finding more pace all of a sudden. And now, this is worry for Greg Galt. If he can't catch Phil Sell, he's safe with 3 laps to go. And Phil Sell, I think, hit his number.
Yeah, he must have, or either he's managed to hit it and he's just trying to make it 110% to the end. We'll see what happens. We look at Madison, though. Madison down 0.3 quicker last lap than Richard Hampstead. So Hampstead 2:08.854. Madison down at 2:08.50. So down, really turning it up here, and Hampstead making a mistake into turn 5. Manages to keep it online, though, but those tyres, with that extra heat in them, will not be happy.
No, they won't. You can see lock up every corner now for Richard Hampstead. He is not comfortable in the TTL Esports car. Madison down all of a sudden is thinking, you know what? 3rd position would be nice here as they head through the hurry downs and this left hand 90 degrees before the carousel. It's not enough at the moment for Madison to think about 3rd position because he is just not there to make the decisive move when it counts. And at the moment, it counts for so much more than just another podium. It's pride, as is Richard Hampstead now thinking about the fuel save. Because, of course, you've got to remember, he did gain about 2 seconds on Madison Down, who was a lot longer in his first stop.
That's exactly right. We'll have to wait and see for the lap times to come in because Hampstead, he's just managing to hold on to Down at the moment. He's doing a good job of keeping him behind, but I don't know. Seems like he might be threatened, especially with those minute mistakes that he's been making.
Well, it's been a small mistake after a small mistake after a small mistake. He's only got 2 laps to hold on to the podium against Madison Down, the former champions, both having their own scrap. Gap remains 1.4. There was 2 thousandths in it in Jared Philsell's favour over that last lap. It's still slightly eking out in his favour, and now it will take beggar's belief to see Ethan Greg Galt get past Jared Philsell in the final stages. He's found everything that he's needed and maybe just a little bit more as well. Elsewhere in terms of battles, we do have some good ones. Ross Rizzo and Sam Sutton are fighting it out for 11th place, and Ross Rizzo, I think, is going to run out of the road.
Yeah, definitely seems that way. Rizzo, he's done it very well to hold on as long as he has. And I tell you what, the amount he's charged through the field is fantastic. Speaking of hard charges, let's think about the likes of Nick Cummings, Andrew Gilliam, and Jamie McKnight. Also Greg Sharp. the amount that they have made their way through the field, and David Sanford plus 20 positions. That's fantastic. He started 40th and last.
I know, he's done fantastic work to get himself to where he is. Hampstead under pressure from Madison Downs still, who wants that podium. And at the moment, it's just not there for Madison Down. He's hoping beyond hope that he can find himself with a little bit more magic that we have seen from him so many times in his career. But for the time being, Madison Down will just have to settle on the sidelines once again, unless this last lap is going to be absolutely majestic by his standards. Jared Filsell has the 1 second gap plus that he's needed. He's been very mindful, gets all over the curb though through that Bill Mitchell bend, and I wonder if he's starting to feel the nerves of this one in the final stages of this one. The white flag on the season will come out one final time of V8SCOPS 2018. We will go at Road America, December 2nd, 2018, and Jared Filsell is 1.5 seconds clear of Greg Galt, and only an engine failure will stop him now from taking a championship away. Madison Down hopes for a podium. He's got Jake Burton's rear guard action behind, and now Hampstead's got to worry very deep in there from Madison Down through turn number 3. But for the moment at least, Hampstead is hoping beyond hope that he can just hold on. He's lost the rear of Ethan Griggold. Now he will be a target on Madison Down's radar as they make their way to 5. It's a big late lunge then from Madison Down, and he just can't get there. As Hampstead just gets enough room on the outside to push a little bit harder and get himself and continue in that scenario. But for Jared Filsell, you have to wonder, how hard has he been pushed this season compared to last? A lot harder. Has he still proven that he can win at the highest level? He has done 10 times over compared to his rivals. Has Jared Filsell proven he's got 1 lap pace? So many times he has taken pole position. How many times do we have to say that this guy does things that other drivers just dare to dream of? Even Shane Van Gisbergen, who sits in race control, looks and says Jared Filsell is one of those drivers that you simply have to admire by the way that he races. He's 3 corners away from putting himself in Australian motorsport sim racing history, as now through Canada corner he starts getting closed up by Ethan Griggold. The fuel may be starting to run dry, but he's got more than enough to get himself to the line. Final corner of the championship then, and the number 1 machine will put himself back on top again, because Jared Filsell will secure another V8SCOPS crown to cap off a wonderful season as well. Hampstead runs out of fuel heading to the line, which means Madison Down will take 3rd position, and Jared Filsell runs out of fuel over the line. He cut that mightily tight to hold off Ethan Griggold. What a finish we've seen, but it is championship elitism again for Jared Filsell and Trans Tasman Racing.
And I tell you what, win 14 of the season for Jared Filsell, and I was going to say, Sperry, seriously, after Jared's championships in the past, I think this is the best way he has taken a championship in his entire career. Out in the front, taking the win, no dramas. That's what you want. No dramas,
none at all. And you have to say he's done well. Gilliam can't get by Josh Muggleton at the start-finish line, as we still have a few little scraps. Sam Blacklock and Greg Sharp heading to the line. I think Blacklock's just about safe, or is he? Because here comes Greg Sharp. I think he's going to run out of road, though. Going to go to the inside looking. Oh, he almost stole that one come the end. And that was just a few hundredths of a second that said he couldn't quite get it. Blacklock was out like a light at the final stages. The final few drivers coming across towards the line. But it's donuts all round, because Trans Tasman have yet another V8SCOPS championship, and your champion will be here on the final race results. Jared Filsell takes it by 1.5 tenths in the end, but it's a championship by his standard, and it's one that he will savour for another year's worth of racing. Ethan Grigalt comes second. A mightily fine drive by his standards, no means a slouch, and certainly a title contender, if not a future champion by his own right. Madison Down gets third ahead of Jake Burton, with Richard Hampstead running out of fuel on the final corner, with Forzan El Nabi sixth and Jake Maloney seventh. Marlon McMullen, what a good drive he's had, 20th up to 8th place, with Brett Loxton another top 10 in 9th, and Luke Harvey rounds out the top 10.
Ross Rizzo, a storming drive from him. Very cool head on those shoulders. He finishes 11th from 24th. Sam Sutton sinks to 12th. If he hadn't gotten his penalty, you wonder what result he might have gotten. Josh Muggleton in 13th, with Andrew Gilliam in 14th, beating out Nick Cummings and Jamie McKnight for the top 16. Sam Blacklock finishes 17th. Greg Sharp from 37th up to 18th. Daniel Williams in 19th. And the hardest charger of them all, David Sanford. He started last. He gets a top 20 for his troubles.
He certainly does. David Kidman finishes 21st, with Andrew Fraser 22nd, Brad Ryan and Kane Hewson 23rd and 24th, Riley Blythe, Kurt Stenberg and Michael Taliancic, the last of the finishers in this event. Those who failed to finish include Brady Myers, Ian Ford, James Scott and co. That rounds out 30.
Yes, indeed. And the final retirements here of the season, the ones that didn't eventually make it: Ethan Warren, Thomas Hinz, Chris Robinson, James Duckworth, our Split 2 winner, Glenn Postlethwaite, Wayne Burke. Oh, that's a shame to see that. 7th he started. Tom Curran in 37th. Brett Cananzi, Michael Cracknell, and Christopher Kessie all getting involved in those lap 1 incidents. And that ends up your car field, if I can get the words out, Sperry, for this season.
It does. The final race has finished, and that's not all we've got, because we're going to step aside very briefly here on the iRacing Esports Network, because SimSpeed TV's post-race coverage will be coming to you in just a few moments' time. What a season it has been, and we'll get the fallout from all the drivers in a moment.
Located in Wisconsin, the cheese state of America, just outside the town of Elkhart Lake, Road America.
is a presentation of the iRacing Esports Network.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Virtual Racing School V8 Supercars Online Premier Series Fallout after the final round of the championship. And what a championship we have seen from minute 1 to last. And we do have a champion. It is the same champion as last year, but had to work for it a little bit harder this time by Jared Filsell joining me here in the commentary booth. Jared, it's another championship that you've managed to pick up. It's a big championship win as well, but not only that, it was a hard-fought race victory as well. Let's just talk you through the opening start then to this race, because it was a tough challenge for you all the way through. You had to be pretty much head on a swivel with so many vehicles behind. Were you expecting that many drivers to be fighting you hard in this final race of the season, or were you expecting something easier for your homecoming crown, shall we say?
Road America is basically Monza, isn't it? Just with a lot more turns. But no, the draft kept everyone in it, so that was cool. I'm sure it looked good on the broadcast. Yeah, credit to all the guys who actually stayed in that lead group and lead pack, and no, it was a good race. Slightly marginal on fuel for the last stint. I think I underfueled by 2.5 litres, so not ideal. That's probably why the gap closed. It's pretty stressful trying to figure out fuel numbers on the way, but I just got there in the end with 0.5 litre.
And with that 0.5 litre, you managed to pick up the victory. How worried were you in the final stages watching Ethan Grigolt's times just tumble? Were you worrying about a battle towards the end and maybe seeing that championship fall away if you get into contact?
I'm not really a negative person, but no, I saw him coming. Just tried to hit lap times that were consistent on my fuel number that I had to hit, and then I think Ethan's tyres might have went away at the end. So I think he needed 2.5 tenths per lap. He was actually matching that, but then it kind of dropped off towards the end, unfortunately.
Well, it seems though it's a championship, and you get to keep that magical number 1 on your vehicle, but it's clear to see that the competition did step up from last year. You expecting 2019 to be your toughest season yet?
No doubt. To be honest, I was in no man's land in pre-qualifying because I hadn't done any laps previously before this round. So I got to give props to the other 39 drivers in Split 1 who kept me on my game and forced me to stay in the sim and actually practice. So yeah, credit to those guys. And next season, I'm really not sure what's going to happen. I think I might miss a few races involuntarily, but we'll see how we go.
Well, it is a championship, so shout-outs and sponsors. Who gets it done for you for a championship title once again?
I'll thank my teammates first before sponsors. Couldn't have done it without them. They've been on the ball all year. Madison pushing me all the way, as he always does. Jake even pushing me for Watkins Glen. I can't thank Brock and Dean enough for engineering the car and keeping me sane at the toughest of times. Also thank Harrop Engineering for their continued support in the last 2 years. Also thank HRS as well for their support up until midway through this year as well. I thank Brett. I can't thank Brett enough for his support throughout my little sim racing adventure. So yeah, and thanks to you guys for putting on such an epic year worth of broadcast.
No worries at all. Jared Filsell, your champion in 2018. Second place, though, in this event went to Ethan Griggold. He's standing by with Reese Gardner.
He definitely is. So, Ethan, goodness me, what a final race. You came in with a little bit of an outside chance for the championship. I'm sure you were aware of where Jared and Madison and the like needed to finish for you to win, but you still gave it a red hot go.
Yeah, look, as I'm sure everyone crunching numbers before the race, everyone knew where they had to finish in the end. Pretty much the way the points worked, Jared almost pretty much just had to finish to win the championship, so there was no surprise there. There was a big gap in the end, but yeah, coming into this race with a red hot setup and gave it a crack and just missed out on by a 10th.5 in the end. So yeah, I'd just like to cap off such an awesome season with an awesome race.
Certainly. Now, your strategy there, obviously you had one of the shorter pit stops in the first stop window, and you managed to just snatch the lead from Jared Filsell on the way out of the pits. Was that always the intention, to go for that short first stop and go long on the second?
Look, I still filled the tank on that first stop. For the start of the race there, when I was behind Madison and Jared, I could see that Madison was saving a bit of fuel, so I decided to do the same thing, and in the end I probably saved a little bit more, which allowed me to jump Jared in the pit stop a bit. So yeah, I can just attribute it.
Rightio. Well, coming into those final few laps, Sperry and I were having a discussion about when you were still leading the race, you could have potentially backed Jared into Madison and Jake. Did that ever cross your mind?
No, it didn't cross my mind at all. They're all teammates together, so nothing crazy is going to happen there. Usually it's the opposite way. I'm the one who's getting backed in all of them, so no, I wouldn't do that sort of thing. I'm just trying to go 100% pace as fast as I can and see what comes out of it.
Well, what came out, certainly one of your best drives of the season, right up there with your win at Laguna Seca. It's been a fantastic season for you. Obviously, there were quite a few things that happened this season that put your championship fight in jeopardy, but you still managed to stick it out, and you have third place in the championship for your troubles. You must be happy with that. So what does 2019 look like for you?
I'm just looking to build on the speed we've gained in the car this year. It's been a huge gain year on year from 2017 to 2018. I think I finished 2017 last year, seventh last year, sorry, and we've bumped up to third this year. And without probably last weekend's race at Sebring, probably might have even pipped Madison for second in the championship. But that's how things goes. Sometimes it's motorsport, and we'll look forward to 2019.
Certainly will. The potential is definitely there. Well, before we let you go, Ethan, who would you like to give a shout out to?
I'd just like to thank all the boys at ERT just for their continuous support through the year, helping me with everything there. All the guys over at Logitech, JRT, and Speed Cafe for their ongoing support.
Second on the track, third in the standings. That was Ethan Griggold for Evolution Racing Team in the number 117. Jake, you've got Madison.
I do. Second in the championship for Madison down in the end. Third position on the road. Madison, a tough championship. You certainly had your fair share of victories, but ultimately you'd been fighting the championship right from minute one on the back foot. In terms of how draining this championship can be, just how tough of a challenge is it for someone looking to go from rank amateur to get to the pinnacle of this sort of V8 supercar racing?
Yeah, it's an amazingly competitive championship. Year on year keeps getting more and more competitive. But just to start, massive well done to Jared once again. He's been very dominant in the last few years in this car. Could have very easily been 4 in a row at one point. I was lucky to snatch one away from him. So to win 3 titles in this championship, as competitive as you say, Jake, it's an amazing achievement. So, but yeah, as you said, for my year, didn't really start off that fantastically with basically a DNF almost at Road Atlanta. Got points, but very little. And right from there, I've been trying to claw back. And in the end, happy to get second, but also disappointed to not be fighting Jared as close as I wanted.
Well, you've certainly proven that you were equal through the majority of the season on pace, but let's talk about this race for a moment. Decide to stay out longer on both stops compared to your rivals. How much did the overcut hinder you in terms of the long term of this event, and how much are you fortunate on a few mistakes from other drivers to get the podium?
Yeah, I just changed the strategy up a little bit. So I don't think I quite had the pace of Ethan and Jared. I was there or thereabouts in that first stint, but I was probably 1/10 to 2/10 a lap slower, and the draft was definitely helping me stay there. And as Ethan said, I was trying to save fuel, and I was just constantly thinking about something different I could do. And I didn't actually intend on losing as much track position as I did after that first stop, and that kind of hurt me from then on in. But coming out of turn 1 every lap from that first stop on, I was roughly the same distance away from Ethan and Jared all race, right up until that last stint in the last few laps. I managed to mow them down, but I was kind of hoping for a late race safety car similar to last year, and I was hoping I was going to have that tyre advantage at the right moment. But you know, the classic thing is if you don't quite have the pace, you've got to do something different strategy and hope that you can get a better result. So, and I knew realistically finishing second or third wasn't going to be good enough, so I had to try something different and try and get a win. Didn't quite go my way, but still happy to be up there on the podium.
Well, you still got another podium finish, and it's that consistency that's been so key for you over the entire season. 2019, though, looks potentially a little bit different. You already have yourself a very good result in terms of Aussie Driver Search, but now you're starting to think about, okay, where does 2019 lead you? Is this the moment now that Australian sim racing reaches that level? And are you thinking about potentially a challenge for the title, knowing and hearing that a few rounds are going to be missed by the champion?
Oh, absolutely. I'm always aiming for the championship. The lowest finish for me in this championship is second, and unfortunately I've finished second more often than not ever since V8SCOPS has come in. So not a feeling I enjoy. It's nice to know I'm pretty consistent, either winning or coming second, but definitely want that win. So I'll be having a pretty big crack next year to try and end up there. We don't have any world championship plans on my side next year, so be more focused just on driving the V8, which I think will hold me in good stead for next year. So, but to finish the year off, big thanks to everyone at TTR. Amazing year for us. We've got I think someone pointed out to me in our team chat that there's actually 7 of us in the top 10 in the championship. I'm not sure how accurate that is, but if that's the case, that is a truly amazing achievement. The pace we've had, how we work together on setups is just fantastic. So big thanks to everyone at the team. Big thanks to the sponsors on my car, Fuel Autotech, Momo Australia. Those guys have been fantastic for us, as well as HRS as well on all the cars. So yeah, big thanks to everyone involved, and big thanks to you guys for the professional broadcasting. It's always great to watch these races back.
No worries at all. Madison Down comes home in 3rd position, 2nd in the championship. It's quick fire time. Reese, you found the man in 4th position in the championship, and that is Jake Burton.
Yep, certainly is, Jake. Welcome once again. You were always going to have it a bit more difficult than your championship rivals here. You were very much that outside shot, but you were still in mathematical contention. What was your goal coming in?
Yeah, Reese. Obviously, you know, at the start of the season, I actually gave myself 3 goals. One of them was be in championship contention, albeit mathematical, so we achieved that. Another one was to win a race, achieved that. The other one was to win Bathurst. Unfortunately, we couldn't do that one, but either way, I think it's been a really, really strong season for us, and tonight I just wanted to go out on a high for the season, and unfortunately, although everything went really well tonight, as in we had no contact with other cars, we weren't in crashes or anything like that, but just every little thing that could go wrong for me tonight did. Just stuff like getting caught behind back markers. I missed my my pit boom, and that cost me a few seconds. That actually probably took me out of contention for the race in the last stint. So that was really frustrating. But either way, to finish the season in 4th and to have one of our drivers on the top set of the Drivers' Championship, and Matt and I taking the team's championship home at TTR once again. It's an awesome, awesome feeling.
Yeah, it certainly would be. One more question before we go, Jake. Just the fact that you were racing Madison so closely, especially in the opening stages, how much were you thinking about Madison's potential to win the championship there? Were you thinking about him in relation to Phil Sell and Greg Galt?
Not really. At the end of the day, it was close, but there was still sort of 50 plus to 100 points in it, so one position wasn't going to mean any difference for Ethan or Madison. The last 2 years, conveniently, when Madison's been in it for the championship, I've actually been racing him hard in similar situations, so no team orders at TTR, so yeah, no, it was an all-out fight, and ultimately one that Jared won, and first, third, and fourth in the race, and first, second, and fourth in the championship, something we should be really proud of.
Yeah, it certainly would be. So you have it on the record there. No team orders at Trans-Tasman Racing. We've been hinting at it for a while, but there it is, official. Mr. Sperry, you have Mr. Hampstead.
I do have Mr. Hampstead, and Mr. Hampstead, who is put about 500 meters, not enough fuel in the vehicle. What happened?
Essentially, I just had some issues getting JRT working before the race, and so when I was in the pit lane, I did the old spacebar trick, and I spacebarred with 12.1 laps of fuel, and there was 12 laps left, but it just kept coming down every lap. So obviously, it had taken the fuel consumption from when I was behind people in traffic, and I was using more. So yeah, that was pretty annoying because I had a lot better chance at a good result than I thought.
Well, you had the chance then at a podium, but it is a return up to form, and of course a season that has been up and down and seen TTL now go a little bit up and down. Who is the number one driver now at TTL Esports, and how are you building that team up then for 2019?
I'm pretty confident looking at the championship standings that Brady Myers is actually the leading driver. So we'll be putting all of our efforts behind him, and I think he'll have a really good shot at beating Jared next year.
And of course, looking at that 2019, we've seen Josh Rogers move over to Coanda. Are you now looking to try and cultivate more of that Australian talent? Have you been looking through the field at a couple of drivers that maybe take your fancy for the next generation, maybe, as we're starting to see a potential changing of the guard here in V8SCOPS? Do you feel like this is going to be the time where yourself and TTL now move on to that next generation push as one of the oldest teams in Australian sim racing?
Well, really, you've always got to be looking for new drivers to join the team. Like, at the end of the day, people come and go from teams, and if you're not looking and bringing on new talent, you'll just fade away essentially. So it's always a process that you need to be doing to stay competitive.
And of course, shout outs and sponsors. Who gets it done?
Big thanks to Hyper Simulator. They've been with us for quite some time now, and they've been really fantastic with their support. Big thanks to Down Under Graphics for all their support as well on the road team, as well as the dirt team, as well as JF Race Art. I'm looking forward to getting those tracks, Jared.
Well, that's going to be no worries at all. Richard Hampstead coming home eventually in 5th position. Reese, you have found the main race control man that we have found, our main series admin, in Mike Korolev.
Main race control man Mike. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, Reese. How are you? And you too, Jake.
Yeah, doing very well, especially after what was a fantastic final race and a fantastic season all up. Honestly, this has just, like we say it at the end of almost every season, Scops just keeps going to new heights, but it absolutely does.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. And the proof is in the pudding in that race control, as a whole, actually got to watch more of the racing live this year than we have probably in every other year put together. And I think that really comes down to the quality of the driving. We think we've got the balance for penalties improved. It might not be perfect, but we're certainly on the track to getting it as sharp as we can get it. And just overall, the drivers, I think, really have taken a more professional attitude in how they go about their racing. And that's just been a bonus right through the series. So it's been a fantastic series. And I know Jared's won a crazy amount of races, but there has been racing right through the field that has just been top quality racing to watch. And that's what Scops about. So, yeah, it's been a great year. We're thrilled, absolutely thrilled.
Yeah, I'm sure you are. And we do still have one more thing to do before we go into 2019, which we will get to in a couple of seconds, Mike. But we have the rest of our end of season awards to give out. We've already decided who it was for the media award, and that was Synergy Sim Racing and Redback Racing Team, splitting that award between them. But you have got the Safe Driver Award.
Indeed, I do, and I must congratulate both of those teams, Synergy Sim Racing and RRT. I've personally watched both of those, as well as every other team that put in through the season in sharing races and putting notices out there, and that was the idea of the award. And it was something that we discussed with the sponsor Jamie McKnight from West End Mazda on a way of rewarding people and helping the community help Scops become a bigger just a bigger attraction. So they did that. So congratulations to those two teams. Firstly, that was absolutely fantastic. Now our Safe Driver Award, and we're going to go through a couple of these because there's still some for you guys to drop out there too. But our Safe Driver Award is 150 credits, and it was specifically designed as an award for the driver who could come up doing a minimum of 5 races. And that could be anything from split 1, split 2, enduro races, finish at least 50% of the race to gain championship points. So they had to score it in at least a minimum of 5 races. All races that you do compete in count, so there were no dropped races. And the idea was to see who would come up as an average with the least amount of incidents per race. So, and there were some really great numbers out there from a lot of guys right up high that are racing and often, dropping a wheel off or bumping and so forth, backwards and forwards. But provisionally, and we'd like to announce this, it is provisional because we still have to go through and take in tonight's calculations just to make sure. But the man that finished in what I believe is position 89 in the championship is Ian Bird with 3.14 incidents per race for 7 races. So I know Ian's probably not with us tonight and he may not even be watching, but it was designed as an award for people to race who could race cleanly and open to everybody that competed in Scops. So congratulations, Ian Bird. That is a provisional winner, but I think you're gonna take the chockies.
We shall definitely see, and I guess it just goes to show, you don't have to be competing right at the front to be eligible for honours in this championship, right?
That is exactly right, and that's what it was designed to do. We want, it's great to have those guys up the front and they win all the time, but we also want other people to know that they are actually racing for something other than just being down the field or the enjoyment of being in split 1 or 2 or making Scops. So there are always possibilities out there, and we're hoping that we can continue these awards next year.
Yes, indeed. And speaking of awards, we still have 2 of them to announce. So there are 2 of them that we've got left to give out. The Outstanding Driver of the Series Award and the Encouragement Award. They're both worth 50 iRacing credits each, of course. Once again, thanks to West End Mazda. The Outstanding Driver of the Series Award, Mike, it's all about the driver that we think was the absolute highlight of the season. It may not be someone who always competes directly at the front. It's someone who has really elevated themselves and brought their competition to the next level.
Absolutely.
And we've deliberated, we've decided, and Sperry, we've been talking about this guy quite a bit, and we are both in full agreement about this one. We're going to give it to Ross Rizzo from Trick Sim Sports. Just a fantastic season he has had right from the start, Jake.
He certainly has, from winning split 2 in the opening race at Road Atlanta to consistent finishes throughout the opening half of the season. moving on to a partnership with Forzan El Nabi through the Enduros and culminating with a fantastic victory at the Bathurst 1000. There is no other person in my mind who could deserve this more than the man who will say that he is the least deserving for an award like this. Ross Rizzo is your most outstanding driver of the year.
Fantastic result.
Yep, he certainly is. And the final award we're going to give out is the Encouragement Award. Again, worth 50 credits. The award is given to drivers who have qualified for a V8SCOPS race for the first time in 2018. So the debutantes of the series are eligible for this one. And we've had quite a few drivers turn up for the first time in this series that have really set the world alight and really proven themselves as competitors that are worth a place in this series, Mike.
Well, a difficult choice. And there actually has been a few. Would you like me to announce it, or are you happy to do it, Reese?
I'm more than happy to do it, Mike.
Okay, I'm happy to pass it over to you, buddy, because I think this is actually a real cracker. It's it's a great one. Way you go, mate.
Yeah, certainly is. Well, making his debut this season and really showing that he has what it takes to be a solid competitor in this series, we're going to give the Encouragement Award to Kyle Stokes. Very well deserving, in our opinion. He's made his way into V8SCOPS this year and certainly has turned it up in the races he's been in. Got some really solid results, Sperry. Kyle Stokes.
I certainly agree, and it's a fantastic award that he's been able to pick up, and that can spearhead him on a little bit forward in his iRacing career as well. But on the achievements that we have seen throughout this field, this is the time where we start to close the curtains and call time on another amazing season. But from us here at SimSpeed TV, a lot of people that we need to thank. Of course, our sponsors from Virtual Racing School, Peter Dimov. We've got Paul from CPR Kart Parts, as well as Jamie from West End Mazda as well. A massive thanks to the Oceanic Sim Racing community, and of course to iRacing as well for the platform of the esports network, along with Drew Adamson, who puts a lot of time and effort into the platform's work. And of course, to all of you who have been watching all of our races this season. It has been the biggest season yet of V8SCOPS, but it only proves that it can get better and better. It's Jared Filsell's championship, but for how much longer? An extra year with the trophy for now, but there are so many who are starting to swarm around like sharks and hope for a title picture. But from Reese Gardner, from Brock Cadday, from a certain Mr. Cam Dance, who's been joining us over this season, Bo Albert, the likes of Scott Fountain, and of course, Jay Kennedy. I am Jake Sperry, and my goodness me, has this championship been amazing? And from all of us here at SimSpeed TV, we will see you in 2019 for the brand new season of the V8 Supercars Online Premier Series, the greatest V8 show in sim racing today. Goodbye.